I trusted her with my mother. I didn't know she was playing me. Adrian Cade built his empire on reading people, knowing when they're lying, when they want something, when they're dangerous. So when the new caregiver started moving through his house like she belonged there, he knew something was wrong. Items disappeared. His sister whispered warnings. And Lila Carter? She smiled through it all, her hands gentle on his mother's frail shoulders, her voice soft in the darkened hallways. He watched her every move, waited for her mask to slip. What he found instead would destroy everything he thought he knew about her, about loyalty, and about the man he'd become. Stay with me until the end. Drop a like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The surveillance footage flickered across 3 monitors in Adrian's private office, each screen divided into quadrants showing different angles of the same rooms. Kitchen, hallway, his mother's bedroom, the sitting room where Eleanor spent her afternoons staring at photographs she no longer recognized. 2:47 a.m. Adrian leaned back in his leather chair, the kind that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and watched Lila Carter move through his house like a ghost. She wasn't supposed to be awake. The overnight shift didn't require her to do rounds. His mother slept heavily with her medication. Yet there she was, barefoot on the marble floors, her dark hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in that professional bun she wore during the day. He reached for his whiskey. The glass was empty. Had been for an hour. On the center monitor, Lila paused outside his mother's door. Her hand rested on the frame, and even through the grainy night vision footage, Adrian could see her shoulders rise and fall with a deep breath. Then she moved on, down the hallway toward the kitchen. His jaw tightened. The kitchen camera caught her opening the pantry. She stood there for a long moment, just looking, not taking anything, not searching, just standing in his kitchen at 3 in the morning like she had every right to be there. Adrian's phone buzzed against the desk. He ignored it. Probably Marcus with another update about the shipment delays at the port. Or Vanessa, his sister, calling to complain about something their mother had said during her afternoon visit. Neither mattered as much as what he was watching right now. Lila closed the pantry and filled a glass with water from the filter. She drank it slowly, leaning against the counter, staring at nothing. Or maybe at the window that reflected her own face back at her. Adrian zoomed in slightly, adjusting the camera angle with the controls built into his desk. She looked tired. More than tired. Worn down to something fragile. He told himself he didn't care. The glass went into the dishwasher. She wiped down the counter even though it was already clean. Then she walked back down the hallway, past his mother's room again, and disappeared into the small bedroom off the kitchen that he'd converted into staff quarters. Adrian checked his watch, 2:53 a.m. 6 minutes of footage that told him absolutely nothing except that his mother's caregiver had trouble sleeping. Or that she was casing his house, learning the layout, figuring out what was valuable and what wasn't. He pulled up the footage from earlier that evening and scrubbed through it at double speed. Dinner prep, his mother's bath time. The quiet hours where Lila sat with Eleanor in the sitting room, reading aloud from a book his mother wouldn't remember by morning. All of it looked exactly like what he was paying her to do. But Adrian hadn't built his empire by taking things at face value. He opened a new window on his computer and pulled up Lila's background check for the 3rd time that week. Everything looked clean. Too clean, maybe. 26 years old. Nursing degree from a state school. 2 years at a memory care facility before going private. References that all said the same thing. Dedicated, compassionate, professional. The photo on her license showed a younger version of the woman currently sleeping in his staff quarters. Same dark eyes, same serious expression. But the girl in the photo had something the woman in his house didn't. Hope, maybe. Or naivety. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. Vanessa. Still awake? He typed back with one hand, keeping his eyes on the monitors. Adrian. Working. Vanessa. It's 3 a.m. Adrian. Your point? Vanessa. Mom's earrings are missing. The sapphire ones Dad gave her for their anniversary. Adrian's fingers stopped moving across the keyboard. He pulled up the inventory list he kept of his mother's valuables, a habit from the early days when Eleanor could still wander off and forget where she'd left things. The sapphire earrings were listed. Last verified location. Her jewelry box, master bedroom. Adrian. When did you notice? Vanessa. This afternoon. I was going to take her to lunch, but she got confused, so I stayed here instead. She wanted to wear them. They weren't in the box. Adrian. Did you ask her? Vanessa. She doesn't remember having them. You know how she gets. He did know. His mother's memory was like a house with all the lights going out one room at a time. Some days she knew him. Some days she called him by his father's name. Some days she was 25 again and getting ready for a party that happened 40 years ago. Adrian. Did you ask Lila? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Vanessa. I didn't want to accuse her of anything. Adrian. But you're thinking it. Vanessa. I'm not the only one who thinks there's something off about her. Adrian set his phone down and pulled up the footage from that afternoon. He found the timestamp when Vanessa had been there, 2:17 p.m. to 4:45 p.m., and watched his sister help their mother get dressed for a lunch that never happened. Eleanor had gotten agitated, insisting she needed to find her husband, that he was waiting for her. Vanessa had managed to calm her down, but the confusion had won out. Lila appeared in the footage around 3:30, bringing tea and sitting quietly while Vanessa talked their mother through another episode. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to take over, just sat there like a piece of furniture until Vanessa shot her a look that clearly said, "You can go now." Lila had left without a word. Adrian rewound and watched it again. Then again, looking for something, a gesture, a glance, anything that would confirm what his gut was telling him. The cameras in his mother's bedroom were hidden better than the others. Eleanor didn't know they were there, couldn't know, or she'd spend all her lucid moments raging about privacy and respect and how her own son had become just like the people he worked with. Criminals. She never said the word out loud anymore, but Adrian heard it in the way she looked at him on her clear days. He pulled up the bedroom footage from the past week and started scrubbing through it at triple speed, looking for the moment when the earrings disappeared, looking for Lila's hands reaching into that jewelry box when she thought no one was watching. But the footage showed nothing. Lila helped Eleanor dress, helped her undress, kept the room clean and organized and exactly as it should be. The jewelry box sat on the dresser, untouched except when Eleanor herself opened it to run her fingers over the pieces inside, a ritual she repeated several times a day, finding comfort in the familiar weight of gold and stones. The earrings were there on Monday. Tuesday. Wednesday morning at 9:15 a.m. when Eleanor opened the box and pulled out a string of pearls. Wednesday at 2 p.m., the box was closed. Eleanor was napping. Lila was in the kitchen. Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., the box was open. The earrings were gone. Adrian zoomed in on the footage, watching frame by frame. Eleanor's hands shaking slightly as they always did now, moving through the compartments, lifting the pearl necklace, setting it aside, reaching for something else. But not the sapphire earrings, because they weren't there. He checked the kitchen camera for that same time window. Lila was making dinner, chopping vegetables with the kind of precise movements that came from years of practice. Her phone sat on the counter beside her, dark and silent. She didn't look at it once in the 40-minute window he watched. Adrian's phone buzzed again. Vanessa. Are you going to do something about this? Adrian. I'm looking into it. Vanessa. She's been here 3 weeks and things are already going missing. How long before? Adrian. I said I'm handling it. He closed the message thread and pulled up his contact list. Marcus answered on the second ring, his voice rough with sleep. This better be important. I need you to dig deeper on Lila Carter, Adrian said. Everything. Family, finances, medical history if you can get it. Anyone she's close to, anyone she owes money to. I want to know if she's ever been arrested, sued, or even gotten a parking ticket. The caregiver? Marcus cleared his throat. I thought we already vetted her. We did a surface check. I need more than surface. There was a pause on the other end. Adrian could hear Marcus moving around, probably getting out of bed and heading to whatever room in his apartment he used for the work that couldn't be discussed in offices with windows. You think she's stealing from you? I think I don't know enough about her. That's not the same thing. It is when she's alone with my mother 12 hours a day. Marcus sighed. Give me 48 hours, maybe less if I call in some favors. 24? Adrian? 24, Marcus. And I want surveillance on her phone. Everything in and out. Another pause. Longer this time. That's illegal. So is half of what we do. This is different. This is personal. Adrian's hand tightened around his phone. Which is exactly why I need to know if I can trust her. My mother's health. Your mother's health has nothing to do with reading this woman's text messages. Are you refusing? I'm asking if you've actually seen her do anything wrong, or if you're just looking for a reason to fire her because Vanessa doesn't like her. Adrian ended the call, pulled up the footage again, watched Lila move through his house with that quiet efficiency that made her almost invisible, the way good staff should be. Useful but unobtrusive. There when needed, gone when not. Except she wasn't gone. She was always there, in the background of every camera angle, every moment of his mother's carefully managed day. Reading to her. Walking with her in the garden. Sitting beside her bed when the confusion got bad and Eleanor cried for people who were decades dead. His mother liked her. That was the problem. Eleanor didn't like anyone anymore. Vanessa visited 3 times a week, and Eleanor barely recognized her half the time. The previous caregiver had lasted 6 weeks before his mother threw a lamp at her head during a bad episode and refused to let her back in the room. But Lila? Eleanor smiled when Lila entered the room, reached for her hand during the scary moments when memory and present collided in ways that made reality feel like drowning. Adrian didn't trust it, didn't trust anyone who could slip past his mother's defenses that easily. He saved the footage to a private drive and shut down the monitors. The office felt too quiet without the hum of the screens. Too dark, even with the desk lamp cutting shadows across the paperwork he'd been ignoring for the past 3 hours. Outside the window, the city sprawled in all directions, its lights forming patterns that meant something to someone. Traffic routes, business districts, neighborhoods where people slept without armed security on the other side of their gates. Adrian's house sat on 3 acres in a part of town where the lots were measured in acres instead of square feet, and the neighbors all had their own reasons for choosing privacy over community. The kind of place where everyone minded their own business because they all had business worth minding. He should go to bed, had meetings in the morning that required him to look like he'd slept, to look like a legitimate businessman instead of what he was, someone who'd built power by knowing which rules could be bent and which ones needed to break completely. But instead, he stayed in his office, pulling up different camera angles, watching footage from the past 3 weeks, looking for the moment when Lila had stopped being just the caregiver and become something else. A problem, a threat, a question he couldn't answer. Morning came too early and without enough coffee. Adrian stood in the kitchen watching Lila make breakfast for his mother. Scrambled eggs, soft enough for Eleanor to manage, toast cut into triangles because that's how she'd eaten it as a child, and some memories lived deeper than the disease could reach. A small bowl of berries that Lila would probably end up eating herself when Eleanor inevitably refused them. "Good morning, Mr. Cade." Lila's voice was quiet, professional. She didn't look at him, keeping her attention on the eggs in the pan. Her hair was pulled back today, that same neat bun she wore during working hours. Scrubs instead of the casual clothes she'd been wearing in the middle of the night. Nothing in her expression suggested she knew he'd been watching her sleep through a camera hidden in the smoke detector above her bed. "Morning." Adrian poured coffee into the mug that had been sitting ready beside the machine. She'd made it exactly how he liked it, strong enough to taste like a threat. "How is she today?" "She had a good night, slept straight through." Lila plated the eggs and added them to the tray she'd already prepared. "I think the new medication is helping." "What new medication?" She finally looked at him, those dark eyes that gave away absolutely nothing. "Dr. Morrison adjusted her sleep prescription last week. You were copied on the email." Adrian had been copied on a lot of emails last week, had read approximately none of them. That's what assistants were for. "Right." Lila picked up the tray. "She's in the sitting room. Vanessa called earlier asking if she could visit this afternoon around 2. "Did she?" It wasn't a question, and Lila didn't treat it like one. She just nodded and moved past him, carrying the tray down the hallway toward the sitting room where his mother spent her mornings pretending to read the newspaper she could no longer understand. Adrian followed, not obviously, just drifting in that direction with his coffee, looking like he had business in that part of the house. Which he did. Checking on his mother counted as business. Making sure the woman he paid to take care of her was actually doing her job. That was just good management. Eleanor sat in her favorite chair by the window, wrapped in a cardigan despite the fact that the house was kept at a steady 72 degrees. She looked up when Lila entered, and her whole face changed, lit up in a way Adrian hadn't seen in months. "There you are!" Eleanor's voice was stronger in the mornings, clearer. I was starting to worry. "I'm right on time, Eleanor." Lila set the tray on the small table beside the chair. "Same as always." "Are you? I can't seem to remember what time it is anymore. Or what day. Is it Thursday?" "Saturday." "Oh." Eleanor's face fell slightly. "Your father hates Saturdays, all that golf. I never understood why men—" She stopped, her expression clouding. "Where is he? Did he already leave?" Lila didn't miss a beat. "He had an early meeting, but he left you a note." She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to Eleanor. Adrian moved closer, trying to see what was written on it, but Lila's body blocked his view. Eleanor read it and smiled. He always was terrible with words, but he tries. She folded the note carefully and tucked it into her cardigan pocket. "Will you read to me after breakfast? We're at the part where Elizabeth realizes what a fool she's been." Pride and Prejudice again? "Is there any other book worth reading?" Lila laughed. Actually laughed. Adrian watched his mother's face soften even more at the sound. "We'll read as long as you want," Lila said, "but breakfast first." Adrian stepped into the doorway. Both women looked at him. "Adrian?" His mother's smile dimmed. Not gone, but different. Careful. "I didn't know you were home." "I live here, Mom." "Do you?" She looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. "This is your house?" "Yes." "Oh, it's very nice." She turned back to Lila. "Is he staying for breakfast?" "I don't think so." Lila met Adrian's eyes over his mother's head. "Mr. Cade is very busy." The dismissal was polite but unmistakable. Adrian felt something sharp twist in his chest. He wasn't being dismissed from his own house, by his own staff, in front of his own mother. "Actually," he said, "I have a few minutes." Lila's expression didn't change. "I'll get another chair." She moved past him again, close enough that he caught the scent of whatever soap she used. Something clean and completely unpretentious. Not the expensive perfumes Vanessa wore or the designer fragrances the women at his business dinners doused themselves in. Just soap and maybe laundry detergent. He should have stayed in his office. Eleanor picked at her eggs while Lila arranged another chair. Adrian sat, feeling too large for the delicate furniture, too rough for this room with its soft colors and careful quiet. His mother ate slowly, methodically, the way she did everything now, like each action required conscious thought instead of instinct. "The garden is lovely this time of year," Eleanor said to no one in particular. "The roses should be blooming soon." "They already are," Lila said gently. "Would you like to take a walk after breakfast? The weather's perfect." "I don't know. I should wait for—" Eleanor's hand moved to her pocket where she'd tucked the note. Her face cleared slightly. "Yes, a walk would be nice." Adrian watched this exchange like he was behind glass. Separate from it. Unnecessary. "What's the note say?" he asked. Eleanor's hand tightened protectively around her pocket. "That's private." "Mom, it's from my husband. You wouldn't understand." Lila stood abruptly. "I should get Eleanor's walking shoes. Excuse me." She left before Adrian could say anything else. The room felt colder without her in it. His mother went back to her eggs, humming something under her breath. A melody Adrian almost recognized from childhood. "You should be nicer to her," Eleanor said without looking up. "To who?" "To Lila. She's very patient with me. The others weren't." "What others?" His mother's face clouded again. "I don't remember their names, but they weren't patient. They talked to me like I was stupid." She finally looked at him, and for a moment her eyes were completely clear. "I'm not stupid, Adrian. I'm just lost." The words hit harder than they should have. "I know, Mom." "Do you?" She set down her fork. "Sometimes I think you've forgotten what it's like to be human, to need people." "I need people." "No, you use people. That's different." Before he could respond, Lila returned with a pair of walking shoes and a jacket. "Ready for that walk?" Eleanor's face lit up again. "Oh yes, the roses are blooming." "They are," Adrian watched Lila help his mother into the jacket with the kind of gentle efficiency that came from genuine care or excellent training. He couldn't tell which. Didn't know if there was even a difference anymore. They left him sitting in the chair meant for someone else, drinking coffee that had gone cold while he wasn't paying attention. His phone buzzed. Vanessa. Can we talk about the caregiver situation? Adrian. Not now. Vanessa. When? She's clearly doing something wrong. Adrian. You have proof of that? Vanessa. I have instincts, same as you. He pocketed his phone and went back to his office. The monitors were still dark. He turned them on and found Lila and Eleanor in the garden, walking slowly along the stone path between the flower beds. His mother was talking, her hands moving to illustrate whatever story she was telling. Lila listened like it was the most interesting thing she'd heard all day. The camera angle was too far away to pick up audio. He made a mental note to install closer microphones, just for safety, just in case. He pulled up Lila's file again and started reading through it line by line, looking for the crack, the inconsistency, the lie that would prove what his instincts were screaming at him, that something here was wrong. Her employment history was straightforward. High school in a small town 2 hours north, scholarships for college. Student loans still being paid off in monthly installments he could see in her bank records. The nursing degree had taken 5 years because she'd worked full-time while going to school. Her current apartment was a studio in a neighborhood Adrian wouldn't walk through after dark. Rent was $800 a month, and she was always 3 days late paying it. Not because she didn't have the money, his payments to her were generous and on time, but because she sent exactly $800 to a medical billing company every month on the 1st. He pulled up the billing company. A hospital 2 hours north, the same town where she'd grown up. Adrian opened a new browser window and started searching. Local news, public records, anything that might explain why Lila Carter sent half her paycheck to a hospital every month without fail. It took 20 minutes to find it. A car accident 3 years ago. Head-on collision with a drunk driver. 2 fatalities. 1 critical injury. The critical injury was listed as David Carter, age 53. Still in long-term care at Maplewood Medical Center. Her father. Adrian sat back in his chair and stared at the screen. Lila Carter was sending money to keep her father alive. Expensive care, the kind that drained bank accounts and forced people to make choices between their own future and someone else's present. The kind of financial pressure that made people desperate. Desperate enough to steal? He pulled up her bank records again. No unusual deposits, no sudden windfalls. Just her paycheck from him, the regular payment to the hospital, and the scraps left over for rent and food, and a life reduced to sustaining someone else's. His phone rang. Marcus. I've got preliminary information, Marcus said. You're not going to like it. Tell me. Lila Carter is broke. Like genuinely broke. The only thing keeping her afloat is the salary you're paying her, and most of that goes straight to medical bills for her father. He's in a vegetative state. Has been for 3 years. The doctors keep saying there's no hope, but she won't pull the plug. Adrian's jaw tightened. How broke? She's 3 months behind on her car insurance, 6 months behind on her student loans. She's got $15 in her checking account and a credit card that's maxed out at $2,000. If she's stealing from you, she's really bad at it because there's no evidence the money is going anywhere. What about the earrings? What earrings? My mother's sapphire earrings went missing yesterday. Worth about $20,000. Marcus swore softly. And you think, I think a woman who's drowning in debt and working in a house full of valuables is a risk. I think I need to know if she's the kind of person who would steal from the people she's supposed to be caring for. Based on what I'm seeing, she's the kind of person who would work herself into the ground before asking for help. But desperation makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. You want me to keep digging? Yes. And get me that phone surveillance. Adrian, just do it, Marcus. He ended the call and turned back to the monitors. Lila and Eleanor were sitting on a bench now, both of them looking at something in Lila's hands. He zoomed in. A phone. She was showing his mother pictures. Eleanor was smiling, pointing at something on the screen. Lila nodded and swiped to show her another image. Adrian watched this for longer than he should have. Watched his mother engage with the world in a way she hadn't in months. Watched Lila treat her like a person instead of a patient. His sister's words echoed in his head. There's something off about her. But what if the thing that was off was that she actually cared? What if Adrian had spent so long around people who wanted something from him that he couldn't recognize genuine compassion when it was right in front of him? He thought about the note Lila had given his mother, the lie about his father leaving a message, the small fiction that had brought comfort instead of confusion. That took emotional intelligence, understanding, a willingness to meet Eleanor where she was instead of forcing her to exist in a reality that only caused her pain. Or it took manipulation, the kind that built trust so later, when things went missing, no one would believe the truth. Adrian pulled up the footage from Wednesday again, watched his mother's jewelry box, watched the earrings disappear between camera angles. Someone had taken them. The question was whether Lila Carter was desperate enough to be that someone. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Unknown. We need to talk about your business arrangement with the Volkov family. Adrian stared at the message, deleted it, pulled up his security protocols and started checking for breaches. The Volkov family wasn't something you texted about. They weren't something you acknowledged existed unless you were in a very specific room with very specific people who had all agreed that certain conversations were happening off the record. Someone was phishing or threatening. Either way, it was a problem. He made 3 calls, tightened security on the house, doubled the guards at the gate, added a 4th camera to the exterior perimeter. When he looked back at the monitors, Lila and Eleanor were gone. He found them in his mother's bedroom. Lila was helping Eleanor change into a different dress, this one pale blue with buttons that Eleanor's shaking hands couldn't manage anymore. "You have such lovely things," Lila said. "Did you pick this one out yourself?" "I don't remember." Eleanor's voice was small. "I don't remember buying any of these." "That's okay. They're beautiful anyway." "Are they mine? You're sure they're mine?" "I'm sure." Lila finished with the buttons and stepped back. Eleanor looked at herself in the mirror, her expression uncertain. "I look old," she said quietly. "You look lovely." "I look like my mother. I always said I'd never look like my mother." Eleanor's hands shook as she touched her face. "Where did the time go?" "I don't know," Lila said, "but you're here now. That's what matters." Adrian watched his mother lean into Lila's shoulder. Watched Lila put her arm around Eleanor and just hold her while she cried for something she couldn't quite name. Loss. Time. The person she used to be. He should look away. This felt too private, too raw. But he kept watching, trying to find the angle, the weakness, the moment where Lila's compassion would crack and show the calculation underneath. It never came. Eventually, Eleanor stopped crying. Lila helped her wash her face and touch up the minimal makeup she wore. They went back to the sitting room, and Lila pulled out Pride and Prejudice and started reading from where they'd left off yesterday. Adrian's phone rang again, a number he recognized. "We have a problem," the voice said without preamble. "The shipment at the port, it's gone. Define gone. Someone tipped off the authorities. They seized everything. We're looking at a $500,000 loss, minimum." Adrian's hand tightened around the phone. Who knew about the shipment? "The usual people, and whoever they told, you know how it is." "Find the leak." "I'm trying, but whoever did this, they're not in our usual circles. The information was too specific. Someone's been watching us for a while." Adrian ended the call and pulled up his security footage from the past month, looking for patterns, for faces that appeared too often, for vulnerabilities he should have caught earlier. The house, his mother, the business. All of it suddenly felt more exposed than it had an hour ago. And in the middle of it all was Lila Carter, reading Pride and Prejudice to a woman who would forget every word by tomorrow, sending money she didn't have to keep a father alive who would never wake up, living in a studio apartment and eating whatever was left after everyone else had been paid. Either she was exactly what she appeared to be, someone trying to hold everything together with nothing but will and stubbornness, or she was the best kind of liar, the kind who believed their own story. Adrian needed to know which, before his mother got hurt, before whatever was happening in his business spilled over into this house, before he made a mistake he couldn't take back. He pulled up Lila's phone records and started reading through every call, every text, every data point that might tell him who she really was. The afternoon bled into evening. Vanessa showed up at 2 like she'd said she would. Adrian watched through the cameras as she kissed their mother's cheek, and sat down with practiced patience to talk about nothing that mattered. Eleanor smiled and nodded and asked the same questions 3 times. Lila excused herself and went to the kitchen, started making dinner. Vanessa followed her. Adrian unmuted the kitchen audio. "Don't think it's appropriate," Vanessa was saying. "I'm sorry?" Lila's voice was neutral, professional. "The way you speak to her, to my mother, like your friends instead of—" Vanessa trailed off. "Instead of what?" "Instead of hired help." The words hung in the air like smoke. Adrian leaned forward, watching Lila's face on the screen, waiting for the reaction, the anger, the slip in her careful mask. But Lila just nodded and went back to chopping vegetables. "Your mother responds well to warmth. It helps her feel safe." "My mother responds well because you're manipulating her emotions." "I'm doing my job. Are you?" Vanessa moved closer. "Because things have been going missing since you got here. Small things. Things my mother wouldn't notice, but the rest of us have." Lila set down her knife. "If you're accusing me of something, Ms. Cade, I'd appreciate you saying it directly. I'm saying that my mother's earrings are gone, the sapphire ones, and I'm saying you're the only new person in this house. Have you checked with Eleanor? She moves things sometimes, hides them. She doesn't remember where she puts anything." "Exactly." Lila turned to face Vanessa fully. "Which is why accusing me of theft based on a missing pair of earrings seems premature. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just pointing out facts." "Then let me point out some facts too. I work 12-hour shifts taking care of a woman who doesn't remember my name most days. I make sure she eats, bathes, takes her medication, and doesn't hurt herself when she gets confused about where she is or who's in the room with her. I read to her, walk with her, hold her hand when she cries for people who are dead. I do all of this for a salary that barely covers my own bills, and I do it because she deserves to be treated with dignity." Lila's voice never rose above conversation level, but something in it made Adrian sit up straighter. "So if you have proof that I've stolen something, call the police. Otherwise, I have dinner to make." Vanessa stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked out of the kitchen without another word. Lila went back to chopping vegetables. Her hands were steady. Her expression was calm, but Adrian noticed she didn't touch the knife again until Vanessa's car had pulled out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. He made a note to check the bedroom footage again, to verify whether his mother actually did move things and forget, to find any evidence that would prove or disprove what his sister believed. His phone buzzed with an email from Marcus. Subject line, "Phone surveillance." Adrian opened it, scrolled through the data, text messages to her father's care facility, calls to the hospital, a few messages to a friend asking about someone named Beth and whether she'd heard from her lately. Nothing suspicious, nothing that suggested theft or deception or anything other than a woman trying to keep her head above water. He scrolled further, found a message from yesterday morning. Unknown number. "Still need more time? Lila. 2 more months, please. Unknown. The debt doesn't stop growing because you ask nicely. Lila. I know. I'm working on it. Unknown. Work faster." Adrian read the exchange 3 more times. Debt, time, someone pressuring her for money she didn't have. He pulled up her bank records again. No new deposits, no evidence she'd stolen anything and sold it. But that didn't mean she wasn't planning to. He spent the next hour cross-referencing her location data with the timestamps on his security footage, looking for discrepancies, moments when she said she was one place but her phone said another. Everything matched, down to the minute. Lila Carter was either exactly who she claimed to be, or she was sophisticated enough to beat his security measures. Adrian's instinct said it was the former. His experience said it was the latter. He needed more time, more evidence, more certainty before he made a decision that could put his mother at risk. Dinner ended. Lila helped Eleanor to bed, reading another chapter of Pride and Prejudice while his mother drifted off. The lights went down. The house settled into the quiet of another night. Adrian stayed in his office, watching the monitors, watching Lila clean the kitchen and make notes in the medical log she kept for Eleanor's doctor, watching her finally retreat to her own room and close the door. He should sleep, should let this go until morning when he could think clearly. But instead he pulled up the footage from the past 3 weeks one more time. Watching, waiting, looking for the truth hidden somewhere in the hours of tape. Because either Lila Carter was a thief using his mother's vulnerability to rob him blind, or she was the first honest person who had walked into his house in years, and Adrian Cade couldn't afford to be wrong about which. The sapphire earrings turned up 4 days later in a place that made no sense. Adrian found them himself, wedged between the cushions of the sitting room sofa where his mother spent her afternoons. He'd been looking for his phone, which Eleanor had apparently picked up thinking it was a remote control, when his fingers brushed against something small and hard. He pulled out the earrings and stared at them. The sapphires caught the afternoon light, throwing tiny blue fragments across his palm. Eleanor was napping. Lila was in the kitchen. Vanessa hadn't called in 2 days, which meant she was either busy or waiting for him to confirm her suspicions about the caregiver. Adrian turned the earrings over in his hand. They were worth more than most people made in 6 months. His father had bought them in Paris on a business trip that was probably only half legitimate. His mother had worn them to every important event for 20 years, until the dementia made her forget what important events were. Now they'd been living in the sofa cushions, probably for days. He could hear Lila in the kitchen, the soft clink of dishes being put away, the refrigerator opening and closing, normal sounds that had become the background noise of his house over the past month. Adrian walked into the kitchen. Lila was at the sink, her back to him, washing vegetables for dinner. She'd changed into different scrubs, dark blue instead of the light gray she'd been wearing this morning. Her hair was coming loose from its bun, a few dark strands escaping to curl against her neck. "I found these," he said. She turned, saw the earrings. Her expression didn't change. "Where?" "The sofa, between the cushions." Lila dried her hands on a towel and walked over. She looked at the earrings but didn't reach for them. Eleanor probably put them there. She's been hiding things lately. Yesterday, I found her reading glasses in the flour canister. Why would she hide them? Because she's scared someone will take them. It's common with dementia patients. They hide their valuables because they can't remember where safe is anymore. So everywhere becomes a potential safe place. Lila met his eyes. "Did you think I took them?" "My sister did." "But you didn't answer my question. Did you think I took them?" Adrian looked at her, really looked, trying to read past the professional calm to whatever lived underneath. But Lila's face gave away nothing except exhaustion and something that might have been disappointment. "I didn't know what to think," he said finally. "That's honest, at least." She went back to the sink. "You should put those somewhere secure. Actually secure. Not just in her jewelry box where she can access them whenever the impulse hits. She should be able to access her own things." "Should, yes. But can she do it safely?" "That's a different question." Lila rinsed a tomato and set it on the cutting board. "Last week she tried to wear her diamond bracelet in the shower because she thought she was getting ready for a party. The clasp caught on the shower curtain and she nearly fell trying to get free. I had to cut her out of it." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Why wasn't I told about this?" "Because she was fine. A little shaken but not hurt. And because telling you would have meant documenting it in the medical log, which would have upset her when she read it later during one of her clear moments. She already feels like she's losing control of everything. I didn't want to take away what little dignity she has left." "That's not your call to make, isn't it?" Lila turned to face him fully. "You hired me to take care of your mother. That means making judgment calls about what's best for her well-being. Sometimes that's medical. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's knowing when to let her have her privacy instead of turning every small incident into a crisis. A fall in the shower is not a small incident. She didn't fall. She almost fell. There's a difference." Adrian set the earrings on the counter. They looked too bright against the dark marble, too valuable for a room where people made breakfast and washed dishes. "From now on, I want to know about every incident, every close call, everything. Even the things that will hurt her to know? Especially those." Lila picked up the knife and started slicing the tomato. Her movements were precise, controlled. "Your mother asked me this morning why you never visit her anymore. I told her you were here yesterday morning for breakfast. She didn't remember. She said you must be very busy, that important men always are. Then she asked if you were angry with her for getting old." The words landed like a physical blow. Adrian's hand tightened around the edge of the counter. "What did you tell her?" I told her you loved her very much, that you were doing everything you could to take care of her. Lila paused, the knife hovering above the cutting board. I didn't tell her that you spend more time watching her through cameras than actually sitting in the same room with her. That seemed cruel. You don't know anything about my relationship with my mother. I know she lights up when Vanessa visits. I know she asks about you but doesn't expect you to show up. I know she apologizes for being a burden even though no one's told her she is one. That's enough to know. Adrian stepped closer. You're out of line. Probably. Lila went back to cutting. But someone needs to tell you that surveillance footage isn't the same thing as presence. You can watch her all you want. It won't make up for the fact that she's dying and you're hiding in your office pretending you can control it. But she's not dying. Everyone's dying. Some people just have a clearer timeline than others. Lila finished with the tomato and moved on to an onion. Eleanor knows what's happening to her. On her good days, she knows. And it terrifies her. Not the forgetting. She can't help that. But the fact that she's disappearing and the people she loves most are letting her go quietly. That's the part that breaks her. Adrian's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. You've been here a month. Don't pretend you understand my family. I understand people. I understand what it's like to watch someone you love slip away and feel helpless to stop it. I understand the guilt that comes with not being enough, no matter how hard you try. Lila's voice stayed level, but something in it cracked at the edges. The difference between us is that I show up anyway, even when it hurts, even when I know it won't change the ending. The phone buzzed again. Adrian pulled it out and looked at the screen. Marcus. I have to take this, he said. Of course you do. He walked out of the kitchen before he could say something he'd regret, answered the call in the hallway where the audio from the kitchen camera would pick up his voice for later review. We found the leak, Marcus said without preamble. It's worse than we thought. How much worse? The Volkovs know about the Singapore deal. They know about the accounts in the Caymans. They know about the shell companies we're using to move money through Eastern Europe. Someone's been feeding them information for at least 6 months. Adrian's blood went cold. Who? Still working on that, but whoever it is, they have access to your inner circle. This isn't some low-level employee selling scraps. This is someone who sits in on your private meetings. How many people is that? Counting me? 5. Maybe 6 if you include your attorney. Adrian ran through the list in his head. People he'd trusted for years. People who had as much to lose as he did if the operation fell apart. Start vetting everyone, bank records, phone logs, everything. I'm already on it. But Adrian, if the Volkovs know this much, they're not going to sit on it. They're going to use it, either for leverage or to take you out completely. Let them try. Don't be stupid. These aren't amateurs. They don't make threats. They make examples. And if they decide you're a liability, I'll handle it. How? By hiding in your fortress and watching everyone through cameras? You can't surveillance your way out of this. Adrian ended the call, stood in the hallway with his phone in his hand and the weight of too many problems pressing down from all sides. Through the kitchen doorway, he could see Lila still cooking, moving with that same quiet efficiency, like the conversation they just had hadn't happened, like she hadn't just called him out for being exactly what he was, a coward, hiding behind technology because actual human connection required vulnerability he couldn't afford. His mother's voice drifted from the sitting room. She was awake, calling for someone. Lila wiped her hands and moved toward the sound before Adrian could. He watched through the doorway as she entered the sitting room, watched on the monitor as she sat beside Eleanor and took her hand. I had the strangest dream, Eleanor was saying. There was a man. He looked like my husband, but older, sadder. He was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear him. What do you think he was trying to say? I don't know. Maybe that I should have been kinder, or braver, or less afraid of things I couldn't control. Eleanor's fingers tightened around Lila's. Do you ever feel like you're running out of time to fix your mistakes? Every day. What do you do about it? I try to do better tomorrow. That's all any of us can do. Adrian listened to this exchange and felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. Shame, maybe. Or recognition. The acknowledgement that his mother was right. He was hiding, had been hiding for years behind money and power and the illusion of control. The earrings still sat on the kitchen counter where he'd left them. He picked them up and carried them to his office, locked them in the safe where they should have been all along, where Eleanor couldn't hide them, and Vanessa couldn't use them as ammunition, and Adrian couldn't keep using them as an excuse to suspect the one person in this house who was actually doing her job. He pulled up the surveillance footage from earlier that day, watched Lila help his mother dress, watched her read from the book Eleanor wouldn't remember, watched her treat a confused, frightened woman with the kind of gentle patience that couldn't be faked hour after hour, day after day. Then he opened a new file and started building a profile on the people in his inner circle, the ones Marcus had mentioned, the ones who had access to information they shouldn't have been able to share. Finding the leak in his organization was critical. But first he needed to deal with the leak in his own judgment, the paranoia that made him see threats where none existed and miss the real dangers until they were too close to stop. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Your caregiver problem is about to solve itself. You're welcome. Adrian stared at the message. Read it 3 more times. Then he was up and moving, out of his office and down the hallway toward the kitchen where Lila was still making dinner like nothing was wrong. She looked up when he entered. Forget something? Who else knows about your father? Her expression shuddered immediately. Excuse me? Your father, the medical bills, the money you send every month. Who else knows about it? That's none of your business. It is if someone's using it against you. Adrian held up his phone, showing her the message. What does this mean? Lila read it. Her face went pale. I don't know. Yes, you do. Someone sent this to me 5 minutes ago. Someone who knows you're working here and thinks you're a problem. So I'll ask again. Who knows about your father? Everyone. Anyone who bothers to look. It's not a secret. She set down the knife she'd been holding. My father's accident was in the local news. His medical situation is in public records. The fact that I'm paying his bills is documented in court filings because I had to fight the insurance company to keep him in long-term care instead of pulling life support. So if someone wants to use that against me, they have plenty of material to work with. Why would they use it against you? Because desperate people make easy targets. Lila's voice was quiet, resigned. Because I work for you, and someone thinks I'm either vulnerable enough to exploit or expendable enough to eliminate. Take your pick. Adrian's mind raced through possibilities. The Volkovs wouldn't care about a caregiver. They'd go after him directly. But someone in his organization might see Lila as a weakness, a way to apply pressure or create chaos in his personal life while the business side was already under attack. How much do you owe? He asked. On my father's care? About $200,000, plus another $60,000 in student loans, plus whatever interest keeps piling up because I can only make minimum payments. She said it like she was reading from a grocery list. Facts with no emotion attached. I've been trying to work extra shifts, take on private clients, anything to make a dent, but the more I work, the more the bills grow. It's like trying to bail water out of a sinking boat with a teaspoon. Why didn't you ask for help? From who? You? You already think I'm stealing from you. Why would I give you more reasons to doubt me? Lila crossed her arms. Besides, my problems aren't your responsibility. I take care of your mother. You pay me. That's the extent of our relationship. Not anymore. Adrian pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. How much do you need to get current on everything? What are you doing? Solving a problem before it becomes a crisis. He started typing. The hospital bills, the student loans, the rent you're always late on. How much? Stop. Lila reached for his phone, but he held it away. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's insurance. Someone thinks they can use your situation against me. I'm removing that leverage. By buying me off? By making sure you're not vulnerable to whoever sent that message. Adrian met her eyes. This isn't about you. It's about protecting my mother and my house and eliminating weak points before they get exploited. Lila laughed. It was a sharp, bitter sound. Right. Because everything is about control with you. You can't just help someone because it's the right thing to do. You have to turn it into a strategic move. Would you rather I didn't help at all? I'd rather you were honest about your motivations instead of dressing it up like you're doing me a favor. She turned back to the cutting board. Keep your money, Mr. Cade. I'll handle my own problems. Will you? Because from where I'm standing, you're drowning and too proud to grab the rope. Maybe I like knowing I'm doing it myself. Maybe I don't want to owe someone like you anything more than I already do. The words stung more than they should have. Adrian pocketed his phone. Someone like me. Yes, someone who measures everything in terms of debt and leverage and what can be used later. Someone who can't understand that some people help others without expecting something in return. Lila's hands moved mechanically through the prep work. I take care of your mother because she deserves to be cared for. Not because I want something from you. Not because I'm working an angle. Just because it's the right thing to do. If you can't comprehend that, we don't have anything else to talk about. Adrian stood there for a long moment, watching her work, trying to find the argument that would make her understand, trying to find the words that didn't sound like exactly what she'd just accused him of being. But she was right. He did measure everything in terms of leverage, did calculate the value of every interaction, did assume everyone wanted something because in his world, everyone did. The fact that Lila apparently didn't, that scared him more than the threats from the Volkovs, or the leak in his organization, or any of the other crises currently demanding his attention. My mother likes you, he said finally. I like her too. That's rare. She doesn't connect with people anymore, hasn't for years, but you, she trusts you. Looks forward to seeing you every day. That matters. Lila glanced at him over her shoulder. Is this your way of saying you don't want me to quit? Are you planning to quit? Depends on whether whoever sent that message decides to follow through. If staying here puts my father at risk, it won't. Adrian pulled up his contacts and sent a quick text to Marcus. I'm putting extra security on the hospital. Anyone who wants to get to your father will have to go through 3 layers of protection first. Why would you do that? Because you're right. It's the right thing to do. He put his phone away. And because my mother needs you. She's stable right now. Happy, even. I'm not going to let someone take that away from her. Lila turned around fully. This isn't about your mother. This is about you not wanting to lose control of another situation. Can't it be both? She studied him for a long moment. Adrian felt exposed under that gaze, like she was seeing past all the layers he'd built up to protect himself, seeing the parts he didn't let anyone see. Fine, she said, but I'm paying you back. Every cent you spend on security, on medical bills, on whatever else you decide to throw money at. I don't care how long it takes. That's not necessary. It is to me. Lila picked up the knife again. I need to know I can survive without someone else's money propping me up. That when this job ends, and it will end eventually, I won't be starting from zero again. So you can help or not help, but either way, I'm paying my own debts. Adrian recognized the steel in her voice, the same stubbornness that kept her working impossible hours, sending money she didn't have to keep someone alive who might never wake up, the kind of determination that looked like strength right up until it broke you completely. All right, he said. We'll call it a loan. You can pay me back at whatever rate doesn't leave you eating ramen every night. I like ramen. That's not the point. Lila almost smiled. Almost. Your mother wants pot roast for dinner. I need to get this finished before she wakes up and decides she wants something completely different. Adrian took the dismissal for what it was and left the kitchen. But instead of going back to his office, he found himself walking to the sitting room where Eleanor was still dozing in her chair. She looked smaller than he remembered, more fragile, like the disease was eating her from the inside out, leaving behind something that looked like his mother, but wasn't. Not really. He sat in the chair Lila usually occupied. The cushion was worn in a specific way, shaped by hours of someone else's presence. His mother's book lay on the side table, Pride and Prejudice, the bookmark placed carefully at chapter 33. Adrian picked it up and opened to the marked page. Started reading. The words were familiar in the way childhood things are. He'd read this book in high school, probably. Or maybe his mother had read it to him when he was younger. Before his father's business consumed everything, before the family name became something that required protection instead of pride. Eleanor stirred, opened her eyes and looked at him like she wasn't quite sure who he was. Adrian? She said uncertainly. Yeah, Mom, it's me. Oh, she relaxed slightly. I thought you were someone else. You look different. Different how? Older? Sadder? Like you've been carrying something heavy for too long. Her hand reached out, trembling. He took it. When did you get so tired? I don't know. You should rest. I will. Later. Eleanor's grip tightened. You always say later, but later never comes. And then one day you wake up and you can't remember where all the time went, where you went. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to disappear like I am. Adrian's throat tightened. You're not disappearing. Aren't I? I can't remember yesterday. Can barely hold on to today. Tomorrow's already gone before it arrives. She touched his face with her free hand. But I remember this. I remember you as a little boy, so serious, so desperate to be good enough for your father. I should have told you then that you already were. Should have told you every day. Maybe if I had, you wouldn't be carrying his weight around like it's yours to bear. Mom, read to me, she said, like you used to, before everything got so complicated. Adrian looked down at the book still in his hand. You want me to read Pride and Prejudice? I want you to sit with me. The book doesn't matter. Eleanor settled back into her chair. Lila reads to me every day. It's nice, having someone just be present without needing anything in return. You should try it sometime. So he did. He read chapter 33, stumbling over words he hadn't said aloud in 20 years. His mother listened with her eyes closed, occasionally nodding or smiling at parts she clearly didn't remember but enjoyed anyway. When he finished the chapter, she was asleep again. But she was still holding his hand. Adrian sat there for another hour, just being present, the way Lila did every day without expecting recognition or reward. The way his mother needed, even if she wouldn't remember it later. His phone buzzed repeatedly in his pocket, messages from Marcus. Probably updates on the security situation or the leak investigation. Probably important in the way everything in his business was important, urgent and critical and demanding immediate attention. He ignored all of it. When Eleanor finally released his hand in her sleep, Adrian stood carefully, marked the page in the book where they'd left off, covered his mother with the blanket that lived draped over the back of her chair. Lila was setting the table when he walked past the dining room. She looked up, clearly surprised to see him. She asleep? Lila asked. Yeah. Went out about 20 minutes ago. I'll wake her for dinner in an hour. Pot roast is her favorite. She'll be disappointed if she misses it. Adrian nodded, started to leave, then stopped. Thank you. For what? For being here. For treating her like she matters. Lila set down the silverware she'd been arranging. She does matter. So do you, whether you believe it or not. Before he could respond, the front door chimed. The security alert on Adrian's phone showed Vanessa's car pulling into the driveway. I didn't know she was coming today, Lila said quietly. Neither did I. They both stood there for a moment, waiting. Then Vanessa walked through the front door without knocking. She never knocked, carrying a designer bag and wearing the expression she got when she'd decided something needed to be handled. Adrian, good. We need to talk. She noticed Lila and her expression cooled. Privately, Lila works here, Adrian said. Whatever you need to say is about her. So unless you want her to hear me explain exactly why I think she's been stealing from us, she should probably leave the room. Lila didn't move, just looked at Adrian, waiting. He made a choice. Maybe the first honest one he'd made in weeks. The earrings weren't stolen, Adrian said. I found them in the sofa. Mom hid them there. Vanessa's perfectly composed face cracked slightly. What? Eleanor's been hiding things. The earrings. Other small items. It's part of the disease. Lila explained it to me. And you believe her? I believe the evidence. I watched the footage. No one took those earrings. Mom moved them herself and forgot. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. So you're saying I'm wrong? I'm saying you jumped to conclusions. We all did. No. You jumped to conclusions and then let yourself be convinced otherwise. Vanessa turned to Lila. What did you do? How did you get him to trust you? Lila's expression remained neutral. I did my job, Miss Cade. That's all. That's not all. My brother doesn't trust anyone. Certainly not some stranger who walked into our house a month ago and started, Vanessa. Adrian's voice cut through her building tirade. That's enough. It's not enough. Someone needs to see clearly here. Someone needs to protect this family from what? From someone who actually cares about Mom? From someone who shows up every day and does the work we should be doing ourselves? Adrian stepped between his sister and Lila. You visit 3 times a week for an hour each. I hide in my office and watch through cameras. Meanwhile, Lila is the one sitting with her when she's scared, reading to her, holding her hand. So tell me, who's really protecting this family? Vanessa's face flushed. How dare you? I dare because it's true, and because I'm tired of pretending otherwise. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Vanessa stared at her brother like she'd never seen him before, like he'd become someone she didn't recognize. Finally, she picked up her bag. Fine, do whatever you want, but when this blows up in your face, and it will, don't expect me to be there to fix it. She left the way she'd arrived, without knocking, without looking back. Adrian and Lila stood in the dining room, the carefully set table between them. You didn't have to do that, Lila said quietly. Yes, I did. She's your sister. And she was wrong. Adrian looked at the doorway where Vanessa had disappeared. We've been wrong about a lot of things, starting with you. Lila didn't say anything, just went back to setting the table like nothing had happened. But Adrian noticed her hands were shaking slightly as she arranged the water glasses. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. We've got a problem, Marcus said. The Volkovs are moving tonight. They're coming for something. Someone. I don't know what yet, but my sources say it's happening in the next few hours. Adrian's blood ran cold. Coming where? Best guess? Your house. They've been watching it for days. Adrian's hand tightened around the phone. How long do I have? Hard to say. Could be an hour. Could be less. They're good at moving fast when they want something. Marcus's voice was tense. What do you want me to do? Get everyone you trust to the perimeter. No one gets through those gates without going through us first. What about the police? And tell them what? That I think someone might maybe try something tonight based on intelligence I can't explain without admitting where it came from? Adrian was already moving toward his office. Just get the men here, now. He ended the call and pulled up the security system on his phone. All the cameras showed normal activity, empty driveway, quiet street. The guards at the gate looking bored in their small booth. Nothing that screamed imminent danger. But Adrian hadn't survived this long by ignoring warning signs. Lila was still in the dining room when he came back out. She'd finished setting the table and was now folding napkins with the kind of precise movements that suggested she was trying very hard not to think about what had just happened with Vanessa. We need to talk, Adrian said. She looked up, saw something in his face that made her set down the napkin. What's wrong? There's a situation developing. People who have a problem with me might be coming here tonight. What kind of people? The kind who don't negotiate. He moved to the window, checking the street even though the cameras showed nothing. I'm bringing in additional security. The house will be locked down. No one in or out until I say otherwise. Lila's face had gone pale. Should I take Eleanor somewhere safe? No. Moving her would be worse. She gets confused in unfamiliar places. Adrian turned back to face her. The safest place for both of you is here. This house is built like a fortress. As long as you stay inside, nothing can touch you. You're sure about that? I'm not sure about anything, but I'm doing everything I can to keep you safe. Me specifically, or everyone in the house? Adrian met her eyes. Both. Lila wrapped her arms around herself. She looked younger suddenly, more vulnerable. Why would anyone target your mother's caregiver? I'm nobody. You're not nobody. He stopped. Tried to find words that weren't weighted with implications he couldn't afford right now. You're important to my mother. That makes you important to me. And these people, they look for vulnerabilities, ways to apply pressure. So I'm a vulnerability now. Everyone is. That's how this works. Your world sounds exhausting. It is. Adrian's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus confirming the security team was on the way. Stay inside tonight. Don't answer the door for anyone. Don't go near the windows after dark. And if something happens, if you hear anything unusual, you get my mother to the safe room, second floor, behind the bookshelf in my bedroom. There's a keypad. Code is 4729. Lila repeated the numbers under her breath. Why are you telling me this and not your security people? Because they work for me. You work for my mother. If things go bad, I need to know she's your priority, not following my orders. She's always been my priority. I know. Adrian pulled out his wallet and extracted a black credit card, held it out to her. Take this. If you need to run, if you need to get her out and I'm not available to help, use this. Get somewhere safe. Don't worry about the cost. Lila stared at the card like it was a snake. I don't want your credit card. It's not about what you want. It's about being prepared. For what? The apocalypse? For the possibility that tonight doesn't go the way I'm planning. He pushed the card into her hand. Please, just take it. She did, reluctantly. Slipped it into her pocket like it was burning her fingers. This is insane. You know that, right? Normal people don't live like this. I'm not normal people. No, you're really not. Lila looked toward the sitting room where Eleanor was still sleeping. Should I wake her? Tell her what's happening? No, let her sleep. If she wakes up scared, it'll just make everything harder. Adrian checked his watch. 7:15. Marcus's team would be here in 20 minutes. The Volkovs could arrive any time after that. Make dinner like you planned. Keep everything as normal as possible. Routine helps her stay calm. And what are you going to be doing? Making sure we're ready for whatever's coming. Lila nodded slowly. Then she surprised him by reaching out and touching his arm, just briefly, a connection that lasted maybe 2 seconds before she pulled away. Be careful, she said. Always am. That's not true. But I appreciate the lie. She went back to the kitchen. Adrian watched her go, then headed to his office to prepare for a fight he wasn't sure he could win. The security monitors showed Marcus arriving first, his SUV pulling up to the gate at 7:28. 3 more vehicles followed within minutes. Men Adrian had worked with for years filed out, all of them armed, all of them looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Adrian met them at the door. Marcus handed him a tablet showing a map of the property overlaid with heat signatures and movement sensors. Perimeter's covered, Marcus said. I've got eyes on every approach. If someone tries to come through those gates, we'll know about it. What about the back? The service road? 2 men there. 2 more on the east side near the woods. And I've got someone watching the main road for any unusual traffic. Marcus looked past Adrian into the house. Where's your mother? Sitting room. Lila's with her. The caregiver? Marcus's expression shifted. Adrian, if this is about her, it's not. It's about the Volkovs seeing an opportunity and taking it. Adrian pulled up the camera feeds. But she's here, which means she's our responsibility. Same as my mother. Your mother's family. This woman is doing her job. That's more than most people do. Adrian handed the tablet back. Make sure your men understand no one gets hurt tonight, not if we can help it. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew better than to push when Adrian had that tone in his voice. Fine. But if things go sideways, we're getting you out first, then your mother. Everyone else is secondary. Noted. Adrian left him coordinating with the security team and went to check on Eleanor. She was awake now, sitting at the dining table while Lila served pot roast that smelled better than anything Adrian had eaten in weeks. His mother looked up when he entered. Are you joining us? I can't. I have work. You always have work. Eleanor's voice was disappointed but not surprised. Will you at least sit for a minute? Adrian glanced at his phone. No alerts yet. Nothing that couldn't wait 60 seconds. He pulled out a chair and sat. Lila set a plate in front of him without being asked. The pot roast was perfectly cooked, falling apart at the touch of a fork. Carrots and potatoes swimming in gravy that probably had enough butter in it to stop his heart. He took a bite. It tasted like comfort food was supposed to, warm and familiar and completely at odds with the tension currently grinding his nerves to dust. This is good, he said to Lila. Your mother's recipe. She walked me through it yesterday. Lila sat down with her own plate. Most of it, anyway. She got distracted halfway through and started telling me about a dinner party in 1987. Eleanor smiled. Did I? I don't remember that. You said the roast was too dry and your husband ate 3 helpings anyway, just to make you feel better. That sounds like something he would do. He was very kind that way. Eleanor reached for her water glass. Her hand shook slightly, but she managed without spilling. Is he coming home tonight? Lila's eyes flicked to Adrian, a silent question about how to handle this. He's working late, Adrian said. But he said to tell you he loves you. Oh, that's nice. Eleanor took a small bite of pot roast. I should wait for him before I eat. He said not to. Said you should eat while it's hot. Are you sure? I'm sure, Mom. Eleanor nodded and continued eating. The conversation drifted to safer topics. The garden, the book they were reading, a recipe for lemon cake. Eleanor wanted to try even though she'd probably forget by tomorrow. Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. 2 cars just turned onto your street. Unknown make and model. Tinted windows. Adrian stood. I need to go. Eleanor looked up. Already? Work emergency. I'm sorry. He bent and kissed the top of her head. Something he hadn't done in months, maybe years. Lila will take care of you. She always does. Adrian caught Lila's eye on his way out. Saw the fear there, carefully hidden but present. He wanted to tell her it would be fine, that his security was the best money could buy, that nothing would get past the gates. But he'd built his reputation on never making promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he just nodded, a silent acknowledgement that they both understood what was at stake. Then he was moving through the house toward his office, where the monitors showed 2 black sedans stopping just outside his property line, far enough away to avoid the cameras, close enough to make their presence known. Marcus appeared beside him. They're just sitting there, watching, waiting to see what we do. Want me to send someone to talk to them? No, that's what they want. They're testing our response time, seeing how fast we react to a threat. Adrian pulled up the exterior cameras and zoomed in on the cars. The windows were too dark to see inside. How many men do we have outside right now? 8, plus the 2 at the gate. Pull everyone back to the inner perimeter. I want them close to the house. That leaves the outer defenses exposed. The outer defenses are just theater. If they want in badly enough, they'll get in. I'd rather have everyone concentrated where they can actually do some good. Marcus made the call. Adrian watched the monitors as his security team repositioned. The 2 cars didn't move, just sat there like predators deciding whether the prey was worth the effort. Adrian's phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. Yes? Mr. Cade, we should talk. The voice was male, accented. Russian, probably. You have something that belongs to us. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Men like you never do. But perhaps we can discuss this like civilized people. Avoid any unpleasantness. I'm listening. Your caregiver, Miss Carter. We understand she has certain financial difficulties. We'd like to help with those. In exchange for a small favor. Adrian's jaw tightened. What kind of favor? Information, small things. Nothing that would compromise your household, just enough to satisfy our curiosity about your business arrangements. And if I refuse? Then Miss Carter's father will experience some very unfortunate complications with his medical care. Accidents happen in hospitals. Equipment fails. Medication gets mixed up. It would be tragic. Preventable, but tragic. Adrian's hand tightened around the phone hard enough to make the case creak. If you touch her father, we won't, as long as she cooperates. As long as you cooperate. The voice was pleasant, reasonable, like they were discussing a business merger instead of extortion. We're not unreasonable men, Mr. Cade. We simply need assurance that certain information won't find its way to people who might misunderstand our arrangement. What arrangement? The one you've been building with our competitors, the Singapore deal. The accounts in the Caymans. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? Adrian closed his eyes. The leak. Of course. Those deals have nothing to do with you. Everything you do has something to do with us. We've allowed you to operate in our territory for years. That privilege comes with certain expectations. A pause. Send the girl out. We'll have a conversation. If she's reasonable, everyone goes home safe. If not, well, you're a smart man. You understand consequences. The line went dead. Adrian looked at Marcus. They want Lila. For what? Leverage. Information, probably both. Adrian pulled up the camera showing the dining room. Lila was clearing plates while Eleanor told her another story that may or may not have happened. They're threatening her father, using his medical situation to force her into giving them information about my business. What are you going to do? Adrian watched Lila laugh at something his mother said, watched her treat Eleanor with the same gentle patience she'd shown every day for the past month. The same genuine care that had made him question everything he thought he knew about trust and loyalty. I'm going to make sure they don't get what they want. How? By giving them something better to worry about. Adrian pulled up his contact list and started making calls. People who owed him favors. People who had their own problems with the Volkovs. People who would be very interested to know that the Russian organization was making moves in territory they'd agreed to stay out of. Within 15 minutes, he'd set 3 different fires that would require immediate attention from the men sitting outside his house. Financial audits. Supply chain disruptions. A few carefully placed rumors about DEA interest in certain shipping routes. Nothing illegal, nothing they could trace back to him directly. Just enough chaos to make sitting outside his house watching his caregiver seem like a waste of valuable time. His phone rang again, same unknown number. That was petty, Mr. Cade. I don't know what you mean. The fires you just started. Very clever, but ultimately ineffective. We're patient men. We can wait for you to run out of distractions. Then wait. I've got all night. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you have a very vulnerable household. An elderly mother with dementia. A caregiver who can't afford to lose her job. Guards who are loyal only as long as the money keeps flowing. How long before one of those variables changes? Adrian's stomach turned cold. If you touch my mother, we don't want to touch anyone. We want cooperation. Send out Miss Carter. Let us have a conversation. 5 minutes. That's all we're asking. She's not coming out there. Then we'll come to her. One way or another, this conversation is happening tonight. You can make it easy, or you can make it difficult. But you can't stop it. The line went dead again. Adrian looked at the monitors. The 2 cars were still there, hadn't moved an inch. But now he could see shadows moving around them. More people than should fit in 2 sedans. They'd brought backup, had probably been staging in the area for hours. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a siege. Marcus was talking to someone on his radio. He looked up when he finished. We've got movement on the east side, at least 3 people trying to come through the woods. Told you the outer perimeter was just theater. What's the play here, Adrian? We can hold them off for a while, but if they keep pushing, we don't let them push. We go to them first. Adrian pulled up the security system. I'm going to open the gate. Let them think we're surrendering. That's insane. That's strategy. They want Lila. They think she's the weak point. So we give them what they expect, right up until we don't. And then what? Then we see how committed they are to this plan when it stops being easy. Adrian made one more call. This one to a federal prosecutor he'd helped with an investigation 2 years ago. A woman who'd been very clear that she owed him a favor and to call if he ever needed legal protection in a gray area. She answered on the 3rd ring. Cade, it's late. I have a situation. People threatening my household, making demands, extortion. You want to file a complaint? I want documentation. Something on record that if anything happens to me or my family tonight, the Volkov organization was here making threats. There was a pause. The Volkovs? Adrian, what have you gotten yourself into? Nothing I can't handle, but I need insurance. Can you help or not? I can make some calls, get some people watching your location. But if shots get fired, this becomes a police matter. You understand that? I understand. Just get someone here fast. He ended the call and turned to Marcus. Federal attention is coming. That should make them think twice. Or it'll make them move faster. Finish this before witnesses arrive. Maybe, but it's the best play I've got right now. Adrian left the office and went to find Lila. She was in the kitchen washing dishes while Eleanor dozed in the sitting room, her book open on her lap. They want you, Adrian said without preamble. Lila's hands stilled in the soapy water. Who does? The people outside. They're using your father as leverage, trying to force you to give them information about my business. I don't know anything about your business. They don't care. They'll take whatever you can give them and use it to hurt me, or they'll hurt your father to make you more cooperative. Either way, you're in danger. Lila turned off the water, dried her hands slowly. What do you want me to do? Stay inside. Stay away from the windows. If they try to come in, you get my mother to the safe room, and you don't come out until I personally tell you it's clear. And you? What are you going to be doing? Handling it? How? However I have to. Lila looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She stepped forward and hugged him, just briefly. A gesture that was probably meant to be comforting but landed somewhere closer to devastating. Don't do anything stupid, she said against his shoulder. Your mother needs you, even if she doesn't always remember why. Adrian stood very still, tried to remember the last time someone had hugged him without wanting something in return. Came up empty. "I'll be careful," he said. "You're a terrible liar." She pulled back and went to check on Eleanor. Adrian watched her go, then returned to his office where Marcus was coordinating the security team's response. "The feds are sending someone," Adrian said. "ETA 20 minutes. Will that be fast enough?" "It'll have to be." On the monitors, the two black cars finally moved, pulling up to the gate. A man got out of the passenger side of the first vehicle. Tall, well-dressed, the kind of person who looked like he belonged in boardrooms, not making threats outside fortified houses. He walked up to the intercom at the gate and pressed the button. Adrian answered. "Yes." "Last chance, Mr. Cade. Send out the girl, or we come in and get her ourselves." Adrian looked at the monitors showing Lila sitting beside his sleeping mother, holding her hand like it was the most important thing in the world. He thought about the past month, the way she'd brought light back into his mother's life, the way she'd challenged him, made him see himself more clearly than he'd wanted to. He thought about the credit card in her pocket, the security code for the safe room, the way she'd hugged him like she actually gave a damn whether he survived the night. Then he thought about men like the Volkovs, men who saw vulnerability and exploited it, who took and never gave anything back. Adrian pressed the intercom button. "Come and try," he said, and prepared for war. The man at the gate smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes, the kind that said he'd been hoping for resistance because cooperation would have been boring. "I was hoping you'd say that," he said into the intercom. Then he walked back to the car and got in. Both vehicles reversed down the street and disappeared around the corner. Marcus looked at Adrian. That was too easy. "They're regrouping, coming back with a better plan." Adrian pulled up the perimeter cameras. "How long until the feds get here?" 15 minutes, maybe less if they're already in the area. That's a lifetime in this business. Adrian opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a handgun he kept for emergencies that were supposed to never happen. Checked the magazine, chambered around. "Get everyone inside, lock down all entry points. If they're going to hit us, I want them to work for it." Marcus relayed the orders. Adrian watched on the monitors as his security team abandoned their exterior positions and fell back to the house. The front door, the kitchen entrance, the garage. Every way in now had at least 2 armed men covering it. It still didn't feel like enough. Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just an image this time. A photograph of Lila's father in his hospital bed. Tubes and wires running from his body to machines that kept him technically alive. Someone had been in that room recently, close enough to take a picture. The message was clear. We can get to him anytime we want. Adrian forwarded the image to the prosecutor, added a note about witness intimidation and threats against a civilian. Then he called the hospital directly. "Maplewood Medical Center, how may I direct your call?" "Security, now." There was a pause, then a different voice. "This is security. What's the nature of your concern?" "I need a guard placed on David Carter's room immediately. No one in or out except authorized medical staff. And I need the guard armed." "Sir, we don't typically provide armed security for..." "I'm willing to pay whatever it costs. Get someone there in the next 10 minutes or I'm calling the police and telling them you're allowing unauthorized access to vulnerable patients." Another pause. "Let me see what I can do." Adrian ended the call and pulled up the security footage from his own house again. Lila was still sitting with Eleanor, who had woken up and was asking about something. Lila answered patiently, her body language calm, even though she had to know what was happening outside. Strong. That's what she was. Stronger than Adrian had given her credit for. His office door opened. Marcus stuck his head in. "We've got movement. 4 men approaching from the south side. They're cutting through your neighbor's property." "How far out?" 2 minutes, maybe less. Adrian stood. Time to see how serious they are. He left the office and moved through the house toward the south-facing windows. The lights were off in this part of the building, making it easier to see outside without being seen. 4 shapes moved through the darkness, keeping low, using the landscaping for cover. Professional. These weren't street thugs making noise. These were people who knew what they were doing. One of them reached the wall surrounding Adrian's property and produced something from his jacket. Bolt cutters. Within seconds, he'd cut through the decorative iron fencing and created an opening. They came through one at a time, fast and efficient. Adrian's phone rang. The prosecutor. "I've got units en route to your location," she said. "ETA 10 minutes. But Cade, if this is some kind of setup, it's not. Check the image I sent you. They're threatening a man in a vegetative state to get leverage over his daughter." "Who's his daughter?" "My mother's caregiver. She has nothing to do with my business. She's just collateral damage because they think I care enough to give them what they want." "Do you?" Adrian watched the four men move across his lawn toward the house. "I care enough to make sure they regret this. Don't do anything stupid before my people get there." "Define stupid." "You know what I mean." Adrian ended the call and turned to Marcus. "Where are they now?" "Kitchen entrance. They're working on the lock." "Let them." "What?" "Let them get inside. I want them to commit, to be in deep enough that they can't back out when things go bad." Marcus looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "You want armed intruders in your house. I want proof. Video evidence of them breaking in, threatening my household, attempting to kidnap someone under my protection." Adrian pulled up the security system on his phone. "Make sure every camera in the house is recording, multiple angles. I want documentation that holds up in court." "You're insane." "I'm careful. There's a difference." The kitchen lock clicked. Adrian watched on his phone as the door swung open and the four men entered his house. They moved like soldiers, weapons drawn, hand signals instead of words, splitting up to cover more ground. Two headed toward the sitting room where Lila and Eleanor were. The other two started clearing the first floor, looking for additional threats. Adrian's security team let them, following his orders to hold position and observe, to let the intruders dig their hole deeper before filling it in. On the monitor, Adrian watched one of the men reach the sitting room doorway. Saw him raise his weapon. Saw Lila look up and freeze. Then everything happened at once. The man moved into the room, started to speak. Lila stood, putting herself between the gun and Eleanor. The man said something Adrian couldn't hear through the cameras. Lila shook her head. Eleanor woke up, saw the man with the gun, started screaming. The second man entered the room, grabbed Lila's arm. She fought, actually fought, throwing elbows and trying to break free with more violence than Adrian would have thought she was capable of. Eleanor kept screaming, confused and terrified and completely unaware that the danger was real, not another nightmare her broken mind had conjured. Adrian was moving before he made the conscious decision to do it. Down the hallway, past his security team who tried to stop him, toward the sitting room where Lila was still fighting against two men twice her size. "Let her go," Adrian said from the doorway. Everyone froze, the two men holding Lila, the ones who'd been searching the first floor and were now converging on the commotion. Even Eleanor stopped screaming for a moment, looking at her son with an expression that was equal parts recognition and confusion. The man holding Lila spoke, same accent as the one on the phone. "Mr. Cade, we were hoping to avoid involving you directly. You came into my house, threatened my mother, put your hands on someone under my protection. You involved me the moment you crossed that threshold. This doesn't have to be difficult. We just need a conversation with Miss Carter. 5 minutes, that's all. She's not going anywhere with you." The man's grip on Lila tightened. "That's not your decision to make." "Actually, it is. This is my house. She works for me. You're trespassing with weapons. I have every legal right to defend my property and the people in it." "Legal right," the man smiled. "You're going to lecture me about legal rights? You, who's built an empire on breaking every rule that got in your way?" "I break rules that deserve to be broken. I don't threaten old women and exploit caregivers." Adrian's hand moved to the gun tucked into his waistband. "Last chance. Let her go and walk out, or stay and see what happens when you push me too far." The man looked at his companions. Some silent communication passed between them. Then he shoved Lila toward Adrian hard enough to make her stumble. "This isn't over," the man said. "No, it's not. But it will be soon." The sound of sirens cut through the night, distant but getting closer. The intruders heard it too. Their body language shifted from aggressive to calculating. "Federal agents," Adrian said. "They'll be here in about 3 minutes. You can stay and explain what you're doing in my house with guns." Or you can leave now and hope I'm not angry enough to give them your descriptions." The lead man's jaw tightened. "The Volkovs don't forget debts, Mr. Cade. This conversation is just postponed. I'm counting on it." They left, fast and professional, the way they'd come in. Adrian watched on his phone as they disappeared through the kitchen door, across the lawn, through the cut fence, gone before the police cars turned onto his street. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "You all right?" "Fine. Check the perimeter. Make sure they're actually gone and not just regrouping." Marcus left. Adrian turned to Lila, who was standing frozen beside his mother's chair. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, didn't speak. Eleanor was crying quietly, confused tears running down her face. "What's happening? Who were those men?" "Nobody, Mom, just a misunderstanding." Adrian knelt beside her chair. "Everything's okay now." "But I don't understand. Why were they in our house?" "They were lost, looking for someone else, but they're gone now." Eleanor's crying intensified. "I'm scared. I want to go home." "You are home." "No, this isn't right. Something's wrong. I can feel it." She looked at Lila. Tell him something's wrong." Lila finally moved, sat down beside Eleanor and took her hands. "You're safe. I promise. No one's going to hurt you. But those men are gone, and they're not coming back." Adrian made sure of that. Eleanor looked between them, still confused but starting to calm down. "Adrian?" "I'm right here, Mom. You look like my son, but you're different, older." "I am older. Time does that." "Does it? I can't remember." Eleanor's grip on Lila's hands tightened. "Don't leave me, please. I don't want to be alone." "I'm not going anywhere," Lila said. The police arrived. Adrian met them at the door with Marcus beside him. 2 officers, both looking skeptical about the call they'd received from federal prosecutors about a home invasion in progress. "Mr. Cade?" the older officer asked. "That's right. We received a report of armed intruders on your property. They were here, 4 of them, came in through the kitchen. They left when they heard your sirens. You get a good look at them?" "Good enough. I can provide detailed descriptions. And I have security footage of the entire incident." The officer's skepticism faded slightly. "You're willing to press charges?" "Absolutely. Breaking and entering, assault, attempted kidnapping, whatever charges apply to forcing your way into someone's house and putting your hands on them." "Who did they try to kidnap?" "My mother's caregiver. They've been threatening her, using her father's medical situation as leverage to try to force her to provide information about my business." The officer pulled out a notepad. "We're going to need statements from everyone who was present, and that security footage." Adrian spent the next hour walking police through what had happened, providing camera angles, describing the men in detail that would hopefully be enough to identify them later, explaining about the Volkovs without explaining too much about why they had a problem with him in the first place. The federal prosecutor showed up around 9, a woman named Sarah Chen who looked too young to be as connected as she was. She listened to Adrian's statement, watched the footage, and asked pointed questions about his relationship with the Volkov organization. "This is retaliation," she said. "For something you did? What was it?" "I may have disrupted some of their business operations, created some financial complications." "May have?" "Definitely did, but nothing illegal, just aggressive competition." Sarah gave him a look that said she didn't believe him, but couldn't prove otherwise. "They're going to come back, you know that." "I'm counting on it." "Why? So you can escalate this until someone gets killed?" "So I can document everything and give you enough evidence to put them away for a long time." Adrian met her eyes. "I'm not the good guy here. I know that. But I'm not the one threatening old women and exploiting caregivers to make a point. If you want to take down the Volkovs, I'm offering you an opportunity. Use me. Set up surveillance on my property. Monitor their communications. I'll give you access to everything you need. In exchange for what? Protection. For my household. For Lila's father at the hospital. For anyone the Volkovs might target to get to me." Sarah considered this. "I'll need to run it by my supervisor, but preliminarily, I think we can work something out." She left with promises to be in touch. The police finished their investigation and cleared out shortly after. By 10 o'clock, the house was quiet again, except for the security team Marcus had stationed at every entrance. Adrian found Lila in the kitchen. She'd made tea, was sitting at the counter staring at a mug like it held answers to questions she didn't know how to ask. "You should try to sleep," Adrian said. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that man's face. The gun. Your mother screaming." Lila's voice was flat, exhausted. "This is my life now. People breaking into houses, threatening sick men in hospitals, all because I needed a job that paid enough to keep my father alive. This isn't your fault, isn't it? If I'd taken a different job, if I'd let my father go like the doctors said I should, if I'd been less desperate or more careful or just anywhere else, then my mother would still be alone, still scared, still disappearing a little more every day with no one who actually cares enough to slow it down." Adrian sat across from her. "You didn't cause this. The Volkovs did. Because they see compassion as weakness and people as tools. That's on them, not you." Lila laughed. It was a broken sound. "You're defending me. When did that happen?" "When I stopped being an idiot and started paying attention." "To what?" "To the fact that you show up every day. Even when it's hard. Even when my mother doesn't remember your name. Even when my sister treats you like hired help, and I watch you through cameras like you're a threat." Adrian pushed the mug of tea closer to her. "You're the only honest person in this house. Took me too long to see that." "I'm not honest. I'm just too tired to lie." "Same thing sometimes." Lila picked up the mug but didn't drink, just held it, drawing warmth from something that couldn't hurt her. "What happens now?" "Now the feds set up surveillance. Monitor the Volkovs. Wait for them to make another move so they can build a case." "And me? Am I supposed to just keep working here like nothing happened? Keep waiting for someone to show up and threaten my father again?" "Your father has armed security now. The hospital's been notified. Anyone who wants to get to him has to go through multiple layers of protection first." Adrian pulled out his phone and showed her the confirmation from the security company. "As for you, you can leave if you want. I'll understand. But I hope you stay." "Why?" "Because my mother needs you. Because you're good at what you do. Because—" He stopped, tried to find words that weren't weighted with too much meaning. "Because I need to know that not everyone in my life is just here for what they can take." Lila set down her mug. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." "Welcome to my world." "Your world is exhausting. I don't know how you live like this." "Practice, and the fact that I don't know how to do anything else." She looked at him for a long moment. Adrian felt exposed under that gaze, like she was seeing all the parts he kept hidden. The loneliness, the fear that everyone eventually left, the desperate need to control everything because chaos meant losing the few things he cared about. "I'll stay," she said finally. "But not because you're paying me extra or because I'm too desperate to leave. I'll stay because Eleanor deserves better than being abandoned by another person in her life. And because despite everything, I think you're trying. That counts for something." "Does it?" "Ask me again when this is over. When the Volkovs are gone and your mother is safe and you've had time to figure out what kind of person you actually want to be." Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Perimeter's clear. No sign of them. But they'll be back." Adrian showed the message to Lila. "He's right. This isn't finished." "I know." She stood carrying her untouched tea to the sink. "I should check on Eleanor. Make sure tonight didn't set her back too far." "She's sleeping. I gave her an extra dose of the anxiety medication. Doctor's orders for situations like this." "Situations like armed men breaking into her house?" "Stressful events, that's how the prescription reads." Lila nodded, didn't argue. Just stood at the sink looking out the window at the darkness beyond. Adrian joined her. Outside, he could see the shapes of his security team, men with guns protecting a house that had become a fortress, a prison, a place where people hid instead of lived. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For bringing this into your life, for not seeing how vulnerable you were until someone else pointed it out, for treating you like a threat when you were just trying to survive." Lila turned to look at him. "You're apologizing. I didn't think you knew how." "I don't. I'm probably doing it wrong." "No, you're doing fine." She reached out and squeezed his hand, just briefly. Tomorrow's going to be hard. Eleanor will have questions. She might not remember what happened, but she'll remember being scared. We'll need to be patient with her. We? You and me. You're going to spend time with your mother tomorrow, actual time, not surveillance footage, not 5 minutes between phone calls, real presence. Adrian wanted to argue, to explain about his schedule and the meetings he couldn't miss and the business that required constant attention. But looking at Lila's tired face, he found he didn't have the energy for excuses. All right, he said, tomorrow I'll be present. Good. Because she loves you, even when she doesn't remember why. And you love her, even if you've forgotten how to show it. Lila released his hand. Now I'm going to try to sleep. You should do the same. She left the kitchen. Adrian stayed, looking out the window at the security team. At the house he'd turned into a fortress. At the life he'd built that required armed guards and surveillance and constant vigilance just to maintain. His phone buzzed again. This time an email from Sarah Chen. Subject line, Cooperation Agreement. He opened it and read through the terms. Federal surveillance of his property. Regular check-ins with agents. Full disclosure of any contact with the Volkov organization. In exchange, protection for his household and Lila's father. Immunity for any gray area business dealings that came to light during the investigation. It was a good deal. Better than he had any right to expect. Adrian signed the agreement electronically and sent it back. Then he pulled up the security footage from earlier. Watched Lila put herself between Eleanor and the armed men. Watched her fight even though she was terrified. Watched her choose protecting his mother over her own safety. That kind of courage didn't come from desperation. It came from something deeper. Something Adrian had spent years avoiding because it made you vulnerable in ways money couldn't protect against. He thought about Eleanor's words from earlier. You look different, older, sadder, like you've been carrying something heavy for too long. Maybe it was time to put some of that weight down, to stop building walls and start building something that actually mattered. A relationship with his mother that wasn't mediated through cameras. A household that felt like a home instead of a fortress. A life that had room for people who cared without expecting something in return. Adrian shut down the monitors and went to check on Eleanor. She was sleeping peacefully, the anxiety medication doing its job. Her face looked younger in sleep, less marked by the disease eating her memories. He sat in the chair beside her bed, the one Lila usually occupied during the difficult nights, and he stayed there until morning light started filtering through the curtains. His phone buzzed with messages. Business emergencies. Meetings that needed rescheduling. Marcus asking about security protocols for the coming days. Adrian ignored all of it. When Eleanor woke, confused about where she was and why her son was sitting beside her bed instead of at his office, Adrian smiled and told her good morning. Did something happen? She asked. Nothing important. I just wanted to spend time with you. That's nice. Will you stay for breakfast? I'll stay as long as you want. Eleanor smiled, reached for his hand. I'd like that. Even if I don't remember it later, I'd like that right now. Then right now is what we'll have. Lila appeared in the doorway carrying a breakfast tray. She stopped when she saw Adrian still sitting there, raised an eyebrow in a silent question. He nodded, a silent answer that he was staying, that he meant what he'd said about being present. Lila's expression softened. She brought the tray over and set it on the bedside table. Then she pulled up another chair and sat on Eleanor's other side. Breakfast in bed, Eleanor said. This is lovely. What's the occasion? No occasion, Lila said. Just wanted to do something nice. Well, I appreciate it. Eleanor looked between them. Both of you here. Together. That's unusual. Is it? Adrian asked. You're usually working, and Lila's usually alone with me, but this is better. Having both of you. It feels right. Adrian caught Lila's eye over his mother's head. She gave him a small smile. Permission, maybe. Or acknowledgement that they were doing something good here. Something that mattered more than the crisis still waiting outside these walls. They ate breakfast together. The three of them. Talking about nothing important. Eleanor told a story about a trip to France that may or may not have actually happened. Lila laughed in the right places. Adrian found himself relaxing into the moment instead of planning the next one. This was what he'd been missing. what he'd sacrificed in pursuit of control and safety and the illusion that walls could protect you from every threat. His phone buzzed. He turned it off without looking. The Volkovs could wait. The business could wait. Everything could wait. Because right now, his mother was smiling, and the woman who'd taught him what genuine compassion looked like was sitting across from him. And for the first time in years, Adrian felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. The quiet lasted 3 days. 3 days of Adrian actually sitting with his mother, reading to her, walking with her in the garden while federal agents disguised as utility workers watched from unmarked vehicles down the street. 3 days of Lila looking at him like she couldn't quite believe he was real. Like the version of Adrian Cade who showed up for breakfast and stayed through lunch might disappear if she blinked too hard. 3 days of pretending the Volkovs had given up. On the 4th morning, Marcus called at 6 a.m. "We have a problem," he said. Adrian was already awake, had been for an hour, watching the sunrise through his office window while reviewing security footage from the night before. "What kind of problem?" "The leak. I found it." Adrian's hand tightened around his coffee mug. "Who?" "David Reeves, your attorney." The name landed like a physical blow. David had been with Adrian for 8 years, had structured every major deal, knew every account, every shell company, every legal gray area Adrian operated in. If David had been feeding information to the Volkovs— "How sure are you?" Adrian asked. 90%. I found encrypted communications on his personal laptop, financial transfers to an offshore account, meeting logs that match up with known Volkov associates. Marcus paused. "He's been selling you out for at least 6 months, maybe longer." Adrian set down his coffee before he could throw it. "Where is he now?" "His office. I've been watching him since yesterday. He doesn't know we're onto him yet." "Keep it that way. I'm coming down there." "Adrian, if you confront him directly—" "I'm not going to confront him. I'm going to give him exactly what he expects, and then I'm going to watch him burn." Adrian ended the call and sat in the dark office, processing. David Reeves, a man he'd trusted with his business, his legal exposure, his life essentially, because in Adrian's world, those things were the same. Betrayal tasted like copper, like blood in your mouth after getting hit. His office door opened. Lila stood there in her scrubs holding 2 mugs of tea. "I heard you on the phone," she said. "Figured you could use this." Adrian took the mug she offered. "It's 6 in the morning. You're not supposed to start until 8. Eleanor had a bad night, kept waking up confused. I've been with her since 4. Lila sat in the chair across from his desk. "What's the problem Marcus mentioned?" "Found the leak in my organization. Someone I trusted." "I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what happens when you build a life on leverage and fear. Eventually someone decides the other side is offering better terms." Lila sipped her tea. "What are you going to do about it?" "Handle it, the way I handle everything." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." Adrian looked at her, really looked. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was pulled back messily, like she'd done it in a hurry. She looked exhausted and worried, and still somehow present in a way most people never managed. "You should try to rest. I can sit with my mother for a while." "You have work." "Work can wait." Lila smiled. It was small but genuine. 2 weeks ago, you would have said the opposite. 2 weeks ago, I was an idiot. And now? Now I'm an idiot who's trying to do better. Give me credit for effort if nothing else. I'll give you credit when you figure out that handling things doesn't always mean doing them alone. Lila stood. "Whatever you're planning with this leak person, be careful. Your mother needs you in one piece." "Just my mother?" The question slipped out before Adrian could stop it. Lila paused in the doorway, her back to him. "Your mother," she said quietly, "and maybe the person who's finally learning how to show up for the people who matter." Then she was gone, leaving Adrian alone with his tea and the weight of decisions that needed making. He called Sarah Chen at 7. "Tell me you have good news," she said instead of hello. "I found your leak. My attorney, David Reeves. He's been feeding information to the Volkovs for at least 6 months." There was a pause. Then Sarah swore. "You have proof?" "Electronic communications, financial records, meeting logs. My head of security has been building a case. I need everything today." "You'll have it, but I want something in return. Cade, this isn't a negotiation. Yes, it is. I give you Reeves. You give me immunity for anything that comes out during his investigation. Full immunity. For me and everyone in my household. That's a big ask. It's a fair ask. You want the Volkovs. I'm handing you a direct connection. Someone who can testify about their operations, their methods, their network. That's worth protecting the people who helped you get there. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I'll run it by my supervisor. But Cade, if Reeves is dirty, there's a chance he's already told them about your cooperation with us. I know, which is why I need this handled fast, before they figure out I'm not just a target anymore. What does that mean? It means I'm tired of playing defense. Time to make some moves of my own. Adrian ended the call and pulled up David's contact information. Sent him a message about needing to meet, urgently, concerning the Singapore deal and some complications that needed immediate legal attention. David responded within 5 minutes. My office. 10 a.m. Perfect. Adrian spent the next 2 hours preparing, reviewing files, making copies of everything that could be used against him if things went wrong, setting up fail-safes and contingencies because trusting anyone completely was how you ended up with a knife in your back. At 8:30, he found Lila in Eleanor's room. His mother was still sleeping. Lila was sitting beside the bed with her ever-present book, but she wasn't reading, just holding it like a talisman. I need to leave for a few hours, Adrian said quietly. Lila looked up. The leak? Yeah, meeting him at 10. Should be back by noon. Should be? Will be, I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. Your mother already has enough broken ones to deal with. Adrian sat in the chair on the other side of Eleanor's bed. If something happens, if I don't come back, don't talk like that. If I don't come back, he continued, there's a safe in my office, behind the bookshelf. Code is your birthday. Lila blinked. How do you know my birthday? I know everything about everyone who works for me. It's not romantic, it's paranoid. Adrian pulled out an envelope from his jacket. This has instructions, bank accounts, contacts, everything you'll need to take care of my mother if I'm not here to do it myself. Adrian, just take it, please. She did reluctantly, tucked it into her scrubs pocket like it was something dangerous. You're scaring me. Good. That means you're paying attention. He stood, looked at his mother sleeping peacefully, unaware that her son was about to walk into a situation that could go very wrong very fast. Tell her I'll be home for lunch, that we'll sit in the garden, that I'll read whatever chapter she wants from that book she loves. Tell her yourself when you get back. I will, but just in case, stop. You're coming back because you promised, and because despite everything, I don't think you're the kind of person who breaks promises to the people who actually matter. Adrian wanted to believe that, wanted to be that person, but belief and reality were different things in his world. He left before he could say something he'd regret. Marcus met him in the garage with 2 of their most trusted security people. Not the ones who'd been on duty the night the Volkovs broke in. Different men. Ones Marcus had vetted personally. You sure about this? Marcus asked as they got into the car. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's usually when things go sideways. Then make sure you're ready when they do. They drove to David's office in silence. Adrian watched the city pass by through tinted windows. People going about their normal lives. Coffee shops and traffic jams and problems that didn't involve federal investigations and criminal organizations. He wondered what that was like. Normal. David's office was in a high-rise downtown. Expensive address, expensive furniture, everything designed to project success and trustworthiness. All of it a lie, apparently. David greeted Adrian with a handshake and a smile that looked genuine. Adrian, good to see you. What's this about Singapore? Complications with the shell companies. I need to know our exposure if the deal falls through. Come on back. Let's go through everything. They walked to David's private office. Marcus and the security team stayed in the lobby, looking like bodyguards because that's what people expected from someone like Adrian. Inside, David pulled up files on his computer, started talking through legal structures and contingency plans, acting like everything was normal. Like he wasn't actively selling Adrian out to people who'd sent armed men into his house 4 nights ago. Adrian let him talk, watching, waiting for the tell. The moment when David would slip and reveal what he was really doing. It came 15 minutes into the meeting, a glance at his phone, quick, nervous, then back to Adrian with that same professional smile. Something wrong? Adrian asked. No, just waiting for a call. Another client. David set the phone down. But you're more important. Let's focus on your situation. Adrian's situation. Right. Actually, Adrian said, I wanted to talk to you about something else. Oh? The Volkovs. They came to my house last week, threatened my mother's caregiver, tried to use her as leverage against me. David's expression didn't change, but his hand moved slightly toward his phone. That's terrible. Did you call the police? I did. And the FBI. They're very interested in how the Volkovs knew so much about my business operations, about my deals, about my household staff. Adrian leaned back in his chair. They're also interested in finding out who's been feeding them information. Adrian, I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Someone in my organization has been selling information to the Volkovs. Someone with access to everything. Financial records, legal structures, personal details about my family. Adrian pulled out his phone and opened a file Marcus had sent. Someone like you, David. David's face went pale. This is ridiculous. I would never what? Betray someone who trusted you? Take money from criminals? Put innocent people at risk because it was profitable? Adrian turned his phone around, showing David the evidence. Bank transfers, encrypted messages, meeting logs. You've been working with them for months, giving them everything they needed to pressure me, to threaten the people I care about. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can, and I already have. The FBI has copies of everything. They're building a RICO case against the Volkovs, and you're going to be their star witness, whether you want to be or not. David stood abruptly. His hand went to his phone. Adrian was faster, grabbed it, slid it across the desk out of reach. Who are you going to call? Adrian asked. Your handler? Let them know I'm on to you? This is illegal. You can't just take my property. Sue me. Oh, wait, you can't. Because you're about to be arrested for conspiracy and about a dozen other charges Sarah Chen is currently drawing up. As if on cue, the office door opened. Federal agents. 3 of them. Sarah Chen in the lead, holding a badge and a warrant. David Reeves, she said, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit extortion, wire fraud, and violation of attorney-client privilege. You have the right to remain silent. David tried to run, made it about 3 steps before one of the agents caught him. Within seconds, he was in handcuffs, his face red with fury and fear. You're making a mistake, David said to Adrian. They'll kill you for this. The Volkovs don't forgive. Neither do I, Adrian said. The difference is I have federal protection now. What do you have? Sarah led David out. Adrian stayed in the office, watching through the window as they put his former attorney into an unmarked car. 8 years of trust. 8 years of shared secrets and legal strategies. All of it burned to the ground because someone offered a better price. Marcus appeared in the doorway. That went smoother than expected. Too smooth. David's just one connection. The Volkovs still have their network, their resources. Arresting him doesn't end this. So what do? We wait, let them make the next move, and when they do, we make sure it's their last. Adrian's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Cade, I see you've made your choice. The same accented voice from before, calm, almost amused. Arresting David was clever, but ultimately futile. We don't need him anymore. We have everything we need to destroy you. Then why haven't you? Because destruction without purpose is wasteful. We prefer to make examples, show others what happens when they interfere in our business. A pause. You have 48 hours to reconsider your position. Transfer the Singapore accounts to our control. Publicly withdraw from any deals that compete with our interests. Do this, and we'll consider the matter resolved. And if I refuse, then we'll take everything you care about, starting with the people you've been so carefully protecting. Your mother, her caregiver, even that sister of yours who thinks she's too important to be touched. Everyone has vulnerabilities, Mr. Cade. Everyone. The line went dead. Adrian looked at Marcus. They're escalating. 48 hours to surrender, or they start targeting my family. What do you want to do? Adrian thought about Eleanor, about Lila, about Vanessa, who was difficult and judgmental but still his sister, about all the people whose lives would be destroyed if he didn't handle this right. Then he thought about the kind of man he wanted to be, the kind his mother used to believe he was before the business consumed everything. "I want to end this," he said, "completely. No more threats, no more looking over our shoulders. I want the Volkovs gone." "That's ambitious. That's necessary." Adrian pulled out his phone and called Sarah Chen. "I need a meeting, today, with everyone who has jurisdiction over organized crime in this city, because I'm about to give you the biggest case you've ever built." 6 hours later, Adrian sat in a federal building downtown surrounded by prosecutors, FBI agents, and people whose job titles he didn't fully understand. Sarah Chen ran the meeting, but Adrian provided the content. "The Volkovs operate through a network of shell companies and legitimate businesses," he explained, pulling up files on the screen Marcus had set up. "They use legal fronts to move money, real estate, import-export, investment firms, all of it designed to look clean while hiding the criminal operations underneath." "We know how they operate," one of the prosecutors said. "What we don't have is proof that ties the legitimate businesses to the criminal activity." "I have proof, financial records, communication logs, testimony from people who've worked with them. David Reeves can provide legal documentation. I can provide business intelligence. Between us, you'll have enough to dismantle their entire operation." "In exchange for what?" "Full immunity for me and my household, protection for everyone they might target, and I want their leadership arrested within the next 24 hours, before they can retaliate." The room erupted in objections. Too fast, too risky, not enough time to build a proper case. Adrian let them argue for 5 minutes. Then he stood. "Every hour we wait is another hour they're planning their next move. They've already threatened my family, broken into my home, tried to kidnap someone under my protection. How many more violations do you need before you act?" Sarah Chen looked at him. "If we move this fast and something goes wrong, people could get killed." "People could get killed if you don't move fast enough. At least this way we control the timing." Another round of arguments, more objections. But slowly, reluctantly, the room started shifting toward agreement, because Adrian was right, and they knew it. The Volkovs had been operating with impunity for too long. Someone needed to move first. By 9 p.m., they had a plan. Coordinated raids on 6 locations simultaneously. Arrest warrants for 12 individuals, including the man who'd called Adrian with the 48-hour ultimatum. Asset freezes on 37 accounts. Search warrants for businesses across 3 states. It was ambitious, possibly reckless. Exactly the kind of aggressive move Adrian had built his reputation on. "This happens tomorrow morning," Sarah said. 6 a.m. We hit everything at once. No warning. No leaks. "And my family?" Adrian asked. "We'll have federal protection starting tonight. Agents at your house, at the hospital with Lila's father. We'll even put someone on your sister if you want." "Do it." Adrian left the federal building just after 10. Marcus drove him home through streets that looked normal and safe and completely deceptive. Danger didn't announce itself with sirens and warning signs. It showed up quiet and professional, the way those men had walked into his house last week. The house was lit up when they arrived, every window glowing. Adrian's stomach dropped. "Something's wrong," he said. Marcus was already on the radio, calling the security team. No response. He tried again. Nothing. They pulled up to the gate. It was open, just hanging there like someone had cut the power to the automatic lock. Adrian was out of the car before Marcus could stop him, running toward the house, through the open gate, across the lawn where 4 men had crossed just days ago. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house was too quiet. No sound from the security team, no movement, just silence that felt wrong in a way Adrian couldn't articulate. He found the first body in the hallway, one of his guards. Not dead, but unconscious, cable ties around his wrists. Professional work. Marcus appeared beside him, weapon drawn. "Stay behind me." They moved through the house room by room, found the rest of the security team the same way. Unconscious. Restrained. Alive but neutralized. Someone had come through and disabled everyone. Fast. Efficient. Recently, because the guards were still breathing normally, still warm. Adrian's blood ran cold. "Lila, my mother." He ran toward Eleanor's room, found it empty, Bed made. No sign of struggle. Just empty. Lila's room was the same, clothes still in the closet, her book on the nightstand. But no Lila. Marcus was on his phone calling Sarah Chen, calling for backup, calling everyone who could help. Adrian stood in the empty room and felt panic rising in his chest. They'd taken them. While he was busy making plans and building cases, the Volkovs had walked into his house and taken the two people he'd promised to protect. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, just an address and a time. Midnight. Come alone, or they die. Adrian showed Marcus. I'm going. That's suicide. They're setting a trap. I don't care. If I don't show up, they'll kill my mother and Lila. I can't. His voice broke. I can't let that happen. Then we do this smart. We bring federal backup. We coordinate. There's no time for coordination. It's 11:15. I have 45 minutes to get across the city. Adrian grabbed his car keys. Call Sarah. Tell her what's happening. But I'm leaving now, with or without help. He made it to his car before Marcus caught him. Fine, we go. But I'm driving, and we're taking everyone we can get there in time. They drove through the city at speeds that would have gotten them arrested on a normal night. Marcus made calls the entire way, mobilizing what was left of their security team, getting federal agents to the address, trying to build a plan on the fly. Adrian barely heard it. All he could think about was Eleanor confused and terrified, Lila trying to protect her, both of them in danger because of him, because of choices he'd made and enemies he'd created. The address led to a warehouse district near the port. Industrial buildings that should have been empty at midnight probably were empty, except for whatever the Volkovs had planned. Marcus parked 2 blocks away. Federal agents are 5 minutes out. We should wait. No, they said come alone. If they see a team, they'll know I didn't follow instructions. Adrian, I have to do this. Adrian opened the car door. If I'm not out in 15 minutes, send everyone in. But give me 15 minutes to try to fix this. He walked toward the warehouse alone. No weapon, no backup. Just himself and the crushing weight of responsibility for 2 lives that mattered more than he'd realized until they were at risk. The warehouse door was unlocked. Inside was dark except for a single light in the center of the space. Under it, 2 chairs. Eleanor in one. Lila in the other, both tied. Both looking scared but alive. Adrian started toward them. Got maybe 10 steps before men appeared from the shadows. 6 of them. All armed. All positioned to cut off any escape route. The man from the gate stepped into the light. The one who'd been so polite while threatening everything Adrian cared about. Mr. Cade, thank you for coming. Let them go. This is between us. Is it? Because from where I stand, this is about leverage, about ensuring you understand the consequences of interfering in our business. The man walked over to Eleanor, put his hand on her shoulder. She flinched. Such a fragile thing. Memory. Identity. Take it away, and what's left? Just a frightened old woman who doesn't understand why she's here. Touch her again and I'll kill you. You'll try, but you're one man, unarmed, surrounded. The mathematics aren't in your favor. The man moved to Lila. And this one, so dedicated, she actually fought when we took her, tried to protect your mother. It was almost touching. Lila met Adrian's eyes, mouthed something. He couldn't quite make it out. Sorry, maybe, or run. What do you want? Adrian asked. The same thing we've always wanted. Compliance, respect, an acknowledgement that you can't operate in this city without our permission. The man pulled out a gun, casual, like it was a phone or a set of keys. Sign over the Singapore accounts, withdraw from your federal cooperation, and we'll consider letting you keep these 2. Consider? We're not in the business of making guarantees, but we're reasonable men. Give us what we want, and maybe everyone walks away from this. Adrian's mind raced through options, buying time, waiting for backup, trying to negotiate better terms. But Eleanor was crying quietly in her chair, and Lila was looking at him with an expression that said she knew this was bad, that maybe there was no walking away. Okay, Adrian said. I'll sign whatever you want. Just let them go first. Do you think I'm stupid? You sign first, then we discuss their release. And if I refuse? The man raised his gun, pointed it at Eleanor. Then I shoot your mother, then the caregiver, then you. And tomorrow we find someone else in your organization who's more amenable to cooperation. Adrian heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. The federal agents were coming, but not fast enough. Not before this man could pull the trigger and end everything. He had to buy more time. My mother doesn't even know where she is right now, Adrian said. She has dementia. She's not a threat to you. Let her go and I'll give you everything. The accounts, the deals, all of it. Your mother is leverage. As long as we have her, you'll do anything we ask. The man's finger moved to the trigger. But perhaps we only need one hostage to ensure your cooperation. The gun shifted, now pointed at Lila. Wait! Adrian started forward. The man fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Adrian watched Lila jerk in her chair, saw blood bloom across her shoulder, saw her face go white with shock and pain. Everything else happened in a blur. Adrian rushing forward, the men moving to restrain him. Marcus and federal agents bursting through the doors with weapons drawn and voices shouting commands. Chaos. Gunfire. People running and falling and shouting orders that got lost in the noise. Adrian fought through it, got to Lila, put pressure on her wound while she gasped and tried to stay conscious. Stay with me, he said. Help is coming. Just stay with me. Eleanor, Lila managed. Get Eleanor. Adrian looked around, found his mother still tied to her chair, screaming in terror. He wanted to go to her, but Lila was bleeding, dying maybe if he let go. Sarah Chen appeared. I've got her. Go get your mother. Adrian hesitated. Then he moved to Eleanor, cutting the ties binding her wrists. She grabbed him immediately, desperate and confused and more terrified than he'd ever seen her. It's okay, Mom. You're safe. I've got you. What's happening? Where am I? Doesn't matter. We're going home. Paramedics arrived, took Lila, checked Eleanor for injuries, wrapped them both in blankets and led them toward ambulances while federal agents handcuffed the Volkov men who hadn't managed to escape. The man who'd shot Lila was on the ground. Dead or unconscious, Adrian couldn't tell, didn't care. All that mattered was that Eleanor was safe, that Lila was being treated, that this nightmare was finally over. Sarah found him standing outside the warehouse while emergency lights painted everything red and blue. We got all of them, she said. The ones here and the ones at the other locations. The entire leadership. It's done. What about Lila? Shoulder wound. Serious, but not life-threatening if they get her to the hospital fast. She'll recover. Adrian closed his eyes. Felt something in his chest finally unclench. And my mother? Physically fine, emotionally traumatized, but fine. They're both going to the same hospital. You can ride with them if you want. He did. Sat in the ambulance holding his mother's hand while paramedics worked on Lila. Eleanor kept asking where they were going, why there were so many people, what had happened. Adrian told her the same thing every time. They were going somewhere safe. Everything was going to be okay. He wasn't going to leave her. Eventually she stopped asking, just held his hand and cried quietly. The hospital was chaos. Doctors and nurses, police officers taking statements. Sarah Chen coordinating with local authorities. Adrian answered questions mechanically while watching Lila disappear into surgery. Vanessa showed up around 2 a.m., looking scared and furious and like she'd gotten dressed in the dark. What the hell happened? She demanded. Adrian told her, all of it, the Volkovs, the threats, the raid, the warehouse. Lila getting shot while trying to protect their mother. Vanessa listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sat down hard in one of the waiting room chairs. I was wrong about her, she said quietly. Yeah. I thought she was using Mom. Using you. I didn't see... Vanessa stopped. She took a bullet protecting her. That's not someone who's working an angle. No, it's not. They sat in silence for a while, brother and sister, both exhausted, both processing the fact that they'd almost lost everything tonight. What happens now? Vanessa asked. Now we wait. See if Mom is okay. See if Lila recovers. See if I can figure out how to make any of this right. You can't. Some things are too broken to fix. Maybe, but I have to try. The surgeon came out around 4 a.m. Lila was stable. The surgery had gone well. She'd need physical therapy and probably wouldn't have full range of motion in that shoulder for months. But she'd live. Adrian felt something break inside him. Relief so intense it was almost painful. Can I see her? She's in recovery. Won't be awake for a few hours. But you can sit with her if you want. He did. Pulled a chair up beside her bed and just watched her breathe. Machines beeping steadily. IV dripping medication. Her face pale but peaceful in sleep. She looked younger like this. Vulnerable. Nothing like the fierce woman who'd fought against armed men to protect someone she barely knew. Adrian took her hand. Carefully. Like she might break. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For all of it. For bringing danger into your life. For not seeing what you were until it was almost too late. For being the kind of person who measures everything in terms of value, instead of just accepting that some people are good without expecting anything in return." Lila didn't respond. Couldn't. But Adrian kept talking anyway. "You're going to be okay. And when you wake up, we're going to figure this out. All of it. The debt, your father, your future. I'm going to make sure you have choices instead of just survival, because you deserve that. Because my mother deserves to have you in her life. Because—" He stopped. Tried to find words for what he was feeling. Failed. "Because I need you to be okay," he finished. "That's all I've got." Lila's fingers twitched in his hand. A reflex, probably. But Adrian chose to believe it meant something anyway. Eleanor was in a different room, sedated. The doctors said she'd be fine physically, but emotionally this would set her back. The confusion would be worse for a while. The fear would linger even when she couldn't remember why. Adrian sat with her too, divided his time between two hospital rooms. Two women who'd become more important than he'd realized until they were both almost taken from him. Vanessa came and went, bringing coffee. Sitting quietly when words felt impossible. Being present in a way she hadn't been in years. "You love her," Vanessa said around dawn. They were both exhausted. Neither of them had slept. "Mom?" "Lila. You love her." Adrian started to deny it, then stopped. Because what was the point of lying, especially now? "I don't know, he said honestly. "Maybe. Or maybe I just finally met someone who didn't want anything from me except to do her job. Hard to tell the difference sometimes." That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." "Yeah, seems to be my specialty lately." Lila woke up around 8, groggy and confused and in pain despite the medication. Adrian was there, holding her hand, trying to look like he hadn't been terrified for the past 6 hours. "Eleanor?" Lila asked. Her voice was rough. "She's fine. Sedated, confused, but alive. You saved her." "Did I?" Lila's eyes drifted closed. "Don't remember much after he pointed the gun." "You stayed calm, kept my mother from panicking. That matters." "Good." She squeezed his hand weakly. "Don't let them fire me for getting shot. I need this job." "You're not getting fired. You're getting a raise and paid medical leave and whatever else you need to recover." "That's nice. Am I dreaming this?" "No, I'm really here, and I'm really sorry. And when you're better, we're going to talk about everything." Everything is a big word. It's a start. Lila drifted back to sleep. Adrian stayed. Let Vanessa handle the police interviews and the federal paperwork. Let the hospital staff bring updates about Eleanor's condition. Let the world keep spinning while he sat in this room holding on to someone who'd become essential without him noticing. Sarah Chen showed up around 10. "All 12 arrests held. We seized enough assets to cripple their operation. And David Reeves is cooperating fully. We'll have cases built against dozens of their associates by the end of the month. And my family, the protection, will continue until we're certain there's no retaliation risk. But honestly, you cut the head off the snake. What's left is going to be too busy fighting among themselves to worry about you." "That's something, I guess." Sarah studied him. "You did good work here, Cade, even if your methods were questionable." "Story of my life." She left. Adrian stayed, watched Lila sleep and thought about what came next. The conversations they needed to have, the decisions about her father's care, the question of what she wanted versus what he could offer, the question of whether someone like him deserved someone like her. Probably not. But he was going to try anyway. 3 days later, Lila was discharged, still in pain but healing. The doctor said she'd been lucky, a few inches to the right, and the bullet would have hit something vital. Adrian brought her home to his house, to the room she'd been living in, except now it had flowers and books. and a window view that didn't face the alley. You redecorated, Lila said. Vanessa did. She felt guilty, wanted to do something nice. Tell her thank you. Tell her yourself she's waiting to see you. Eleanor was in the sitting room, looking tired but more present than she had in days. She saw Lila and her whole face transformed. You're back, Eleanor said. They said you were hurt. I was. I'm better now. Good. I missed you. The other nurses don't read the same way. They skip parts. Lila laughed, then winced because laughing pulled at her stitches. I promise not to skip any parts. Adrian left them there, gave them space to reconnect, to process what had happened in their own way. He found Vanessa in the kitchen making tea. She looks good, Vanessa said. Considering. Yeah. You're going to ask her to stay. I'm going to ask her a lot of things. Whether she says yes is up to her. Vanessa poured 2 cups, handed him one. For what it's worth, I think she will. Stay, I mean. She's not doing this job just for the money anymore. How do you know? Because people who work for money don't take bullets for their patients. They don't sit up all night reading to someone who won't remember. They don't fight armed men to protect an old woman they've known for a month. Vanessa sipped her tea. She cares about Mom, about you, whether you want to admit it or not. Don't screw this up. I'll try my best. That's all anyone can do. Later that evening, after Eleanor had gone to bed and the house was quiet, Adrian found Lila in the garden. She was sitting on the bench where she used to take his mother for walks, looking at the roses that had bloomed and faded and bloomed again while the world fell apart around them. Mind if I sit? He asked. It's your garden. That's not an answer. Sit, please. Adrian sat. They were quiet for a moment, just breathing, being present without the weight of crisis forcing decisions. I paid off your father's medical bills, Adrian said finally. All of them. And I set up a trust to cover his care for as long as he needs it. Lila turned to look at him. You what? It's done. The hospital confirmed it this morning. You don't have to worry about payment anymore. Adrian, I can't accept that. It's too much. It's not charity. It's necessity. You can't take care of my mother if you're drowning in debt and working yourself to death trying to stay afloat. He met her eyes. And I need you to take care of my mother. She needs you. So this is selfish, really. Protecting my own interests. You're a terrible liar. So you keep telling me. Lila was quiet for a long moment. Thank you. For my father. For everything. I don't know how to... You don't have to do anything. Just keep showing up. Keep being the person who makes my mother smile. Keep calling me out when I'm being an idiot. Adrian paused. Keep being here, if you want. Is that what you want? Me to stay? Yes, but not just as my mother's caregiver, as... He stopped, trying to find the right words. I don't know what this is, what we are, but I know I want to find out, if you're willing. Lila studied him. You're asking me to date you after everything that just happened? I'm asking if you'd be open to the possibility of us being more than what we are now. No pressure, no expectations, just seeing where it goes. That's the most awkward, almost proposal I've ever heard. It's not a proposal. It's a suggestion. A hope. Maybe. Adrian felt exposed. Vulnerable in ways he'd spent years avoiding. Look, I'm bad at this. At feelings and words and figuring out how to be a person instead of just a collection of defense mechanisms. But you make me want to try. To be better. That has to count for something. Lila reached over and took his hand. It counts for everything. But Adrian, I'm still figuring out my own life. I'm still processing the fact that my father might never wake up. That I spent 3 years drowning in debt for something that might never have a happy ending. I don't know if I have room for more complications right now. I understand. But, she continued, I'm not saying no. I'm saying let's take this slow. Let's figure out who we are when we're not in crisis mode. Let's see if what we feel is real or just adrenaline and proximity and the fact that we survived something terrible together. I can do slow. Can you? Because slow means patience. It means showing up without expecting anything in return. It means being okay with uncertainty. Adrian thought about the past month, about learning to sit with his mother without surveillance footage, about reading instead of working, about choosing presence over control. I'm learning, he said. It's not my strength, but I'm trying. Trying is enough, for now. Lila squeezed his hand. Ask me again in 6 months, when your mother is stable, when the federal case is finished, when we've both had time to process and heal. Ask me then, and maybe I'll have a better answer. 6 months. Give or take. I can work with that. They sat in the garden as the sun set, not quite together, but not apart either, existing in the space between what was and what might be. Inside, Eleanor called for Lila. Something about a book, something about tomorrow. Lila stood. I should go. Your mother needs me. She's not the only one. I know, but she gets priority. That's the deal. Fair enough. Lila started toward the house, then turned back. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you. For tonight, for everything. For being honest, even when it's hard. You make it easier, being honest, I mean. Good. Because I need you to keep being honest about what you want, about who you are, about the fact that you're still figuring it out just like everyone else. I can do that. Then we'll be fine. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out. She went inside. Adrian stayed in the garden for a while longer, thinking about 6 months, about slow, about the possibility that maybe, for the first time in years, he was building something that wasn't based on leverage or fear or the need to control every outcome. His phone buzzed, Marcus checking in, making sure everything was settled. Adrian typed back that it was, that for the first time in longer than he could remember, everything was actually okay. Not perfect, not smooth, not without complications, but okay. And sometimes, okay was enough. Inside, he could hear Lila reading to his mother. Pride and Prejudice, the same chapter they'd been working through for weeks. Eleanor's voice asking questions. Lila's patient answers, the sound of 2 people connecting across the gaps that disease and circumstance had created. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching, present, here, right where he needed to be. And for now, that was everything.